It's time to get started. Good morning, everybody. How are you? I am super excited. We got a bunch of people logging on both here and on Facebook. Let me go live on Facebook. All right. And here we go. All right. Good morning, Facebook. And we are live. So here's what we're talking about. Whether you are a conservative, whether you're a liberal, as long as you're a real estate agent, real estate investor, or a member of a real estate team, guess what? This webinar is for you because we're going to be talking about how to succeed in a Trump economy in the real estate industry. Guys, let me tell you something. 2025 has the potential to be your best year yet. I think it's going to be awesome. My prediction is that we're going to see really good numbers for 2025. And so I'm optimistic that those of you that do the right things, that get into the right habits, are literally going to have your best year ever. Now, we're going to go through step by step, not only to have your best year ever in terms of sales, but how to end the year actually building wealth. Okay, this is a very, very important component. What I don't want you to do is just go make a bunch of money, spend a bunch of money, and then at the end of the year, you find out, oh my gosh, I got to do it all over again. Instead, we want to build on that success. We want to make sure that we're putting systems, processes, habits, people in place, technologies, all the things we need to ensure that we're not only selling a lot of real estate, making a lot of money in commissions, but that we're developing our passive income streams. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this in multiple different ways, but I want you to first understand this. Whether you voted for him or not does not matter. I don't care if you like Trump, don't like Trump. None of that matters to me. You know what matters to me? Are you going to make money in this economy? Okay. I'm just making sure this is set so you guys can see it really well. All right, here we go. So what do we need to do first? The very first thing we need to do is begin with the end in mind. So we have to understand, where do we want to go? What do we want to have happen by the end of 2025? So the first thing I want you to write down is, how much money do you want to make in 2025? Write that number down right now. How much money do you want to make in 2025? Okay. Now, how many listings and sales is it going to take to get you there? That's easy math. I'm not going to go through the math with you, but essentially you should know, hey, if I sell a house for $300,000 at X commission, I make X amount of dollars. I need this many of those to equal the amount of money I want at the end of the year. That's going to give you how many houses do I have to sell to get to that number. Okay. So write that number down. How many houses do you have to sell? Now, I'm going to give you some really easy numbers on how to get to those numbers of houses. I'm going to give you multiple ways that you can get literally whatever the average sales price is in your market. Let's say, for example, you're in a $400,000 average sales price market. Then I'm going to show you at least 4 different ways today where you can make an extra $400,000 in 2025. If you're in a $250,000 market, then guess what? I'm going to show you these 4 ways that are going to get you into at least an extra $250,000 in 2025. Now, before we go there, so you've got your number written down, here's how many houses I need to sell to make the income that I want to make next year. Okay, now, the next number I want you to write down is, how much money do I want to make per month in retirement income? Write that down. How much money do I want to make per month in retirement income? And I'm talking passive income that you don't have to go work for. One of the saddest things that I see all the time, and it just breaks my heart, is I see 90-year-old people selling real estate. Now, don't get me wrong. I love our clients that are in their 90s. But let me just tell you this. And let me rephrase. I don't think I have any clients in the 90s. I think all my clients retire a long time before they get to the 90s. But that being said, there's nothing wrong with selling real estate in your 90s if that's what you want to do. The problem comes when you have to sell real estate in your 90s to make ends meet. And so the idea is we want to develop passive income. Now, the number one thing we can do to develop that passive income is what? Buy rental properties, right? That's the best thing we can do. What business are we in? We're in the real estate industry, right? What are you guys expert in? You're experts in real estate. Now, that said, I also want to show you how to use real estate investing to literally double your production in 2025. And I'm not talking about you investing in real estate. I'm talking about you teaching your clients how to invest in real estate. And this can be done whether you are in a market where you can find great deals or not. But at the end of the day, one of the best things Tara and I did, Tara's my wife, for those of you that don't know me, one of the things that we did that helped us become number one in sales nationwide, actually on the planet, was that we started teaching our clients how to invest in real estate. So now, instead of buying a house once every 10 to 14 years, my clients were buying homes once a year, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a year even. Generally speaking, we were getting most of them buying at least one per year. So we had about 150 people that were buying at least a house a year from us. Can you imagine what that would do for your business if you had just, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40 people? Oh, hang on. Camille, can you make sure that we've got everybody muted out, please? Awesome. Thank you, Camille. All right. So can you imagine what it would do for your business if you had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 people that were buying one house a year from you? What if they were buying 2 or 3 a year? Guys, these numbers get crazy really, really fast. And this is just one way to make more money selling real estate. And I'm going to show you how you can even partner with some of those people so that as you're helping them build wealth, you can also be getting into an ownership position, whether you have cash or not. Doesn't require you to actually put up the money, right? Whether you have cash or not, you can be partners in these properties. And now, instead of making a one-time commission, you're not only making your one-time commission, but you're also making residual income every single month. You're making income because that property is going up in value. And let's just talk about all the different ways. First of all, one of the things you have to learn to do is you have to learn to teach your clients the difference between real estate and the stock market. The problem is that a lot of your clients are still investing in the stock market and they still think that the stock market is going to get them where they want to go financially. Did you know that the average person with a 401k retires with no more than $245,000 in retirement cash? And I'm not talking about income. I'm talking about total in their retirement account, $243,000 to $245,000. Guys, that's not enough to live on for very long. I mean, if you really think about that, how long is that money going to last? If you got to live on that for 10 years, I got news for you. You're in a world of hurt because that's only $24,000, $25,000 a year. I got news for you. That's tough to live on, right? So the reality is that the stock market's not going to get most people where they want to go, but you're still going to have the conversation with them. So let me teach you first how to have that conversation with your buyers and your sellers, your clients. Your sphere of influence is where you start. And then let me show you how I invest. And then I'm going to get into, after we talk about investing, I'm going to spend an hour, about hour and 20 minutes talking about teaching your clients how to invest, how I invest, all that stuff. Then I'm going to get into lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. I'm going to show you specific lead sources you need to use. I'm going to show you how to use those lead sources. I'm going to show you how to follow up with them. I'm going to show you how to convert them. So we're going to spend about 3 hours together today. I'm going to go through all of this, and you're going to come out of here with a game plan for 2025 where you can literally, whether you hire us for coaching or not, I want you to come out of this webinar with a game plan for exactly what you need to do moving forward to make 2025 your best year ever. Now, by way of introduction, some of you don't know who I am. Let me just tell you really quick. For those of you that don't know, my name is Michael Hellickson. For a very long period of time, for several years, I was the #1 real estate agent on the planet. I was consistently closing 120 to 180 transactions every single month, right? That's monthly, not annually. And I was doing that with a team of just 16 agents. So my average agent was selling over 100 homes a year. Now, the reality is most of my agents were actually only selling let's say 3 to 5 homes a month. I had a couple that were doing 7 to 10 homes a month, and then I was doing the rest, right? So they were doing a lot of business. So as a team, we were doing a ton of business. But here's what's really interesting. At any given time, we carried 750 listings in active and pending status. And that's quite a number. That's pretty crazy. And when we think about the systems and the people and the processes it takes to run all that, it's insane. Well, that's how Club Wealth got started. I started off, Club Wealth was an organization to teach our clients how to invest in real estate, just like I've been talking to you about. And then it became us teaching real estate agents how to do what we do. And then it took off. And so I'll go into more detail on that later. This is not a pitch for coaching, just so you know. My goal today is I'm just going to bring you a ton of value. And I hope that you say to yourself, gosh, if he's willing to do this for me for free, I can't imagine what he's willing to do when we're actually paying him. Now, during our call today, what I want you guys to do is in the comments on Facebook, I want you to type questions in the comments on Facebook. Camille, my assistant, and I are going to be following those comments, and I'm going to do the very best I can to answer your questions as we go along. All right. So let's talk about how do we pitch this to our clients, right? How do we talk to our sphere of influence about investing in real estate? So first of all, we want to explain to them that real estate is the ideal investment. Now, what does that acronym mean? Ideal investment. So I stands for income. Let's start there. So if I take $100,000 and I invest it in the stock market, how much income do I get every month on that? The answer is zero, right? But what if I take that same $100,000 and I invest in real estate every single month? I'm getting between $750 and $1,250 a month in positive monthly cash flow. That's income I get right now. The only way to really get, I mean, you get some dividends out of the stock market sometimes, but they're very small. But the only real way to get money out of my stock market investment is to sell the asset. I don't have to do that with real estate. With real estate, guess what? I can keep that asset and keep it making money for me. And I go take that money and I go buy more assets. Now, D stands for depreciation. Okay. Depreciation is huge. Now, I'm telling you, the Trump economy has a lot to do with this. Again, it doesn't matter if you voted for him or not. You can hate him all you want. But guess what? There's some depreciation advantages that, particularly for those of you that are real estate agents, if you take advantage of them, you shouldn't be paying federal income tax. Okay. In fact, one of the truest things that was ever said, I'll tell you, in fact, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to tell you that in a little bit. I'm going to tell you what Donald Trump said. That's one of the truest statements I've ever heard about taking advantage of the tax system. All right. And I want you guys to take advantage of it, because if you're not taking advantage of it, you're going to be taken advantage of by it. All right. So depreciation is huge. If I put my $100,000 in real estate, I'm going to save about $6,700 per year on my tax bill. Super straightforward, right? I take that same $100,000 I put in the stock market. How much do I save in taxes? Zero, no depreciation, right? There's no tax benefit for doing that. So very important. I love depreciation. E is for equity. Okay. Let's talk about equity for a second. So I take $100,000, I put it into real estate. Somebody is living in that house, writing a check for thousands of dollars every month to pay off my mortgage, right? That means my equity is growing every day at somebody else's expense. Hallelujah. I feel like I found the Holy Grail, right? All right, well, watch this. I do the same thing in the stock market. I take that same $100,000 I put in the stock market. Who's paying off my equity? Who's paying down that $100,000? Nobody. Nobody. There's no equity buildup in the stock market. Now, there is appreciation, and that's next, okay? So let's talk about appreciation. So appreciation happens in both, right? So if I put $100,000 in the stock market, chances are I've got an okay opportunity to make some money on that, right? Realistically, I'm probably going to get the national average over the last 30 years has been 4.2% on the average 401k, okay? So that means every year it's going to go up in value about 4.2% on average over 30 years. Not terrible. But guess what inflation's been over that same period of time? Uh-oh, you guessed it, 4.1%. Woohoo! I made a whopping 0.1% on my money. Not anything I'm going to be writing home or teaching classes on, right? Not very exciting. And so guess what? I don't invest in the stock market. Instead, I take that money, I put it into real estate. That money in real estate, maybe it only gets me, if I look at the 30 average in real estate, it's only, what, 4.8%. 4.8 isn't that much more than 4.2, but now that 0.6% does make a difference when you factor compounding and all that. It does have an impact, but even still, the appreciation, it's good, but it's not all the equation. It's not the best of the best of the best. Now, you can get more appreciation by buying in areas that have a higher propensity to appreciate. That certainly helps. And so we've identified several markets across the country that we tend to buy in that have higher annual appreciation rates and that we feel are targeted for a tremendous amount of growth going forward. I'll give you an example. One of the places that we buy is in Columbus, Ohio. And in Columbus, they've got an Intel plant going in there, bringing 10,000 jobs to that area. Guess what? That's an area that we expect to see a lot of appreciation. Another one's Memphis, Tennessee. Why do we invest in Memphis? Again, this is a market where we see a lot of appreciation happening over the next 4 or 5 years. And so we want to accelerate that appreciation as much as we can. But at the end of the day, where the real value is and where you really make a ton of money on this, besides all the other things we've mentioned, is the L. And the L stands for leverage. All right, now let's talk about this. Can I leverage my money in the stock market? Short answer is yes. How do I do that? I can go to Charles Schwab, not Les Schwab. That's the tire place. I can go to Charles Schwab and I can say, hey, I've got $100,000 I want to invest, and I'd like you to give me another $100,000 to invest. And Charles Schwab will say, okay, great. We're going to check your credit. We're going to see if we believe you're credit worthy. And then we will match your $100,000 investment. It's called buying on margin. Okay. Now, that all sounds great, but what you have to understand is what happens if that asset goes down in value. What if my stocks go down in value? And by the way, does that ever happen? Think Blockbuster. Yeah, it happens, okay? And so if it goes down in value, let's say it goes to zero. Could that happen? Yes, Blockbuster went to zero. So if it goes to zero, not only do I lose my $100,000, but now I owe Charles Schwab the other $100,000. This is a very, very big deal, guys. All right. So let's take that same money. Let's put it into real estate. So with real estate, instead of leveraging 2-to-1 like I can in the stock market, I can actually leverage 4-to-1 very easily. And that's as an investor. I can leverage even more than that if I'm buying owner occupied. Let's say I want to do something like house hacking, where I might buy a fourplex and I'll live in one unit and rent out the other three. That's called house hacking. And I can do that with 3.5% down. So I'm leveraging tremendously because the bank is putting up the other 96.5%. Guys, that's a pretty big deal. But let's just talk straight up investor financing. Okay. Let's just say I'm putting 20% down on a typical house. I'm now leveraged 4-to-1. In other words, they're putting up $4 for every dollar I put up. That's impressive, right? So now my $100,000 investment, it doesn't buy me $100,000 in appreciation, for example, right? It buys me $500,000 in appreciation. So here's how that math looks. If I had done this in the stock market and I've leveraged 2-to-1 best case scenario, and we're going to use 5% because it's easy numbers, right? For appreciation. So we'll just to make our numbers easy, we're going to use 5. So my stocks go up, my $200,000 now, because I bought on margin, goes up 5%. That's $10,000 per year. Sounds pretty good, right? But it comes with an awful lot of risk. Now I take that same $100,000, I put it into real estate, it goes up 5% per year. It's not 5% on 100 or even $200,000. It's 5% on $500,000 because I bought a $500,000 house. So instead of $10,000, I made $25,000, 2.5 times what I can make in the stock market just on appreciation. We haven't even talked about these other 3 yet, right? That's just on the appreciation. Oh, by the way, it's way safer than investing in the stock market. What's the chance that house is going to go to zero? Pretty much zero. Why? Even if the house burns down, I've got insurance. And by the way, every catastrophe I've had in the last 5 years, I've profited on these things, right? So what I mean by that is, if the house burns down, the insurance company pays you to fix the house. They pay you to either fix it or replace the house. And by the way, if you're a really good negotiator, you can negotiate the highest possible premium from the insurance company. Then you go and negotiate the lowest possible price for the contractors, and you can make the difference. I mean, come on, guys. And it's completely legal. There's nothing illegal about that. All right. Now, that being said, even if the house burned down and I didn't have any insurance, I still have the land value. Right? The land still holds value. So at the end of the day, your real estate's not going to zero. All right. So that being said, we need to understand this. Now, I'll tell you, one of my great mentors taught me. I was dating this girl. This was a long, long time ago. This was when I was in high school. I was dating this girl, and she was all right. She was cool. But I liked her. Her dad was awesome, right? He was super cool. So I actually hung out in that relationship a lot longer than I should have because I wanted to learn from the dad, because this guy owned a steel mill, right? And so I started to get to know this guy. And if you own a steel mill, by the way, you've got a ton of money. So I got to know this guy and I asked him, I said, look, you're the wealthiest person I know. Tell me, do you invest in the stock market? What do you think he told me? Type into the chat if you can guess what he told me. Do you think he's invested in the stock market? Just type in yes or no in the Facebook chat. If you're on the live stream on Zoom, feel free to type it into the chat there as well. But I'm curious, do you think that he told me that he invests in the stock market? Yes or no? All right. Well, here's the answer. I'm getting both answers here. The answer is no. He said, Michael, these were his exact words. It blew me away. He says, Michael, why would I invest in somebody else's business when I can invest in my own? Constantine, you nailed it, man. Absolutely. Why would I invest in somebody else's business when I can invest in my own? It makes absolutely no sense. Of course, I'm going to invest in my own business first. So guys, here's the 3 things you should be investing in, okay? And by the way, before I tell you this, let me tell you what I asked him next. I asked him, I said, do you invest in real estate? And what do you think he told me? He says, I want you to write down the words that he said, because these words changed my life and they might change yours too. He said, Michael, as much as I can, as fast as I can. As much as I can, as fast as I can. Let that sink in. Man, could you imagine if your clients got that message, if you could share that message with your sphere of influence, could you imagine how you could change their lives? What if you could share that message with your spouse, with your children? What if you could just internalize that message for yourself and make that your mantra, right? What could that do for your life if you were buying as much real estate as you could, as fast as you could? Okay, now watch this. There's 3 things you need to invest in, and here's the order in which you need to invest. Number 1, can anybody guess what it is? Type into the chat if you think you know what number 1 is. What's the number 1 thing you must invest in every day? Ready for it? It's this right here. You got to invest in your education every day because that you take with you wherever you go. All right, number 2, you need to invest in your business. Your business. Number 3, you need to invest in real estate. That's the order. It's massive. I'm telling you right now, if you guys could just do that, if you could invest in those 3 things in that order, it will change your life forever. Look at all these right answers. I love it. You guys are absolutely right. Michael, Magali, Fantasia, I'm seeing all these guys putting in the right answers. Absolutely, that is exactly correct. All right, so make sure you're investing in your own education. All right, guys. Now, let's talk a little bit really quick about what do I buy? Why do I buy it? How do I structure it? And by the way, this information is gold. It took me 33 years to really figure this all out. And I'll tell you, it helps to have really good attorneys, and I've got great attorneys, and it helps to have really good accountants, and I've got great CPAs and accountants. All that's fine, fantastic. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that you are going to have to make certain decisions. You're going to have to be the one that determines, am I going to do this or not? Am I going to avoid this or not? Am I going to, enter into this lawsuit? Am I going to settle? Am I going to buy this real estate? How am I going to structure it? All of these are decisions you're going to have to make. And your clients are going to have to make, all right? So you can't just rely on these professionals because I'll tell you right now, attorneys, for example, they might be great on the law, but they might be crap at business, right? Attorneys, I'll tell you right now, they are the sales prevention people by and large, okay? More often than not, attorneys kill deals, okay? By the way, if you agree with me on that, give me a high five in the chat or give me an amen in the chat if you agree with me that attorneys tend to kill deals, okay? Like seriously, it's horrible. And so that being said, they have value. And I love my attorney. I think they might have got great attorneys and I appreciate the advice they give me. But again, I've got to choose what to do with that advice. And one time, I'll tell you this, and I might, if I have time later, I'll tell you the story. But at one point in my life, taking the advice of an attorney at face value and not making my own decision cost me over $100 million. If you'd like to know that, type in 100 million in the chat and I'll share that later. I'm curious if you guys would like to know that. All right, so let's go into what do I buy, why, how do we structure it? So first and foremost, again, I don't care if you're conservative, liberal, I don't care if you're Black, white, Asian, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. I don't care about any of that crap. All that's noise to me, okay? What do I care about? What I care about is, can we be cool to each other? Can we be nice to each other? Can we make money together? Can we respect one another? Can we learn from one another? Those are things that matter to me. Oh, I got a lot of people typing in the chat that they want to learn about the 100 million. So we'll talk about that. I'll save that for the end. That's something I'll share with you at the end. But watch this. Regardless of your background, regardless of who you voted for, here's the deal. I tend to buy in red states versus blue states if I'm renting to retail tenants. Now, this is an important connotation. Not all of my tenants are retail tenants. Some of my tenants, in fact, most of my tenants are institutions like, government organizations, corporations, nonprofits, those kinds of places, right? So I'm doing things like battered women's shelters, halfway houses, sober living houses, those kinds of things. Now, that's a very different class of individual, and there's a specific set of rules that come with that, and it's treated very differently, and they're not treated like a typical tenant. So I don't have to abide by landlord-tenant laws in the same ways that you would on a retail tenant. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying for my retail tenants, I prefer to buy in red states because red states tend to favor the landlord. Blue states tend to favor the tenant. So for example, in blue states, I'll have to deal with things like rent control, eviction moratoriums, all that kind of stuff. I don't have those problems in red states, right? Now, that being said, I can tell you that I own a ton of stuff in Illinois. And holy cow, Illinois is as blue as they come. Except I saw on TV last night a bunch of people wearing this what'd they say, Chicago flipped red or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, long story short, Illinois is a pretty blue state. And so they do have rent control and they have eviction moratoriums and all that kind of stuff, which make it more difficult to rent there. But I've found some niches there where I can profit really well where others can't. And that's kind of the key. Let me preface this with this also. There's not one way to do this. There's lots of ways to make a ton of money investing in real estate. Here's what I want you to understand. I want you to hear me on this loud and clear. There's a difference between active and passive income. Flipping houses is active income. If you're buying them and fix them up, turn around, selling them, you've got a job. Okay. I'm not saying it's not a well-paying job. You can make a lot of money doing that, but you have to understand that you're not building future wealth. You're not building a future for yourself. You're not building a financial fortune. Now, buy and hold real estate, whether it be short-term, medium-term, or long-term, all three of those can be great long-term income strategies, long-term wealth building strategies. That being said, of those three, I prefer mid and long. The short-term rentals can be a little bit of better money, but they are considered, in my opinion, active income because you have to spend a lot more time on those than you do on your long-term rental properties. And by the way, Selena, I love that you're tagging Landon in there. Guys, if you guys have someone that you think can benefit from this information, please hit that share button, share it with them right now, tag them in the comments. Let's get as many people watching this as we can. It'd mean a lot to me and I'd appreciate it a ton. All right, that being said, I'm going to buy in red states predominantly. Now, I'm also going to buy on the 1% rule. This is an immutable law in my world. What is the 1% rule? That means if I buy a house for $500,000, that house must rent out for $5,000 a month or more, period, end of story, or I won't buy it. End of story. That's it. It has to meet these guidelines. Guys, if it does not meet those guidelines, don't do it. Hey, by the way, Camille, can you do me a favor in the chat here? Give everybody the webinar link as well. All right. That said, the 1% rule is critical. I also want to make sure that I have 20 to 50% equity in that property. Now, what does that mean? So I might put 20% down, or I might put 10% down and I buy it for 10% below market, or I might, be able to buy it with a bunch of equity in it on a subject to, or there's a lot of ways this can be done, right? I don't want to get into too much detail on exactly how we're going to be able to do this, but there's a ton of ways to structure these deals. But I want to make darn sure that no matter what, I've got 20 to 50% equity in these properties. Now, I always want the minimum 20, but I never want to go beyond 50. Why? Why do I not want to have more than 50% equity in a particular property? There's two main reasons. There's plenty of others, but there's two big reasons. Number one is the one that everybody thinks of. Can you guys tell me? Why don't you tell me in the chat what you think the two reasons are? And I'll actually start with the hardest one first. You guys tell me what you think the other one is. The one that most people don't think about is asset protection. And what do I mean by this? If I have more than 50% equity in a property, guess what's going to happen? That if somebody gets hurt in that property, they're going to go to their attorney. Their attorney is going to say, hey, this guy doesn't have a mortgage. We can go after him, and there's a ton of meat on that bone. Let's sue him. Maybe they'll even do it on a contingency at that point. That's a scary proposition, right? So I never want to have more than 50% equity because it makes it more likely that I'm going to get sued, okay? Maybe it's not a massive likelihood, but I want to reduce my propensity to get sued by as much as possible at every turn. Now, the second reason, and Carlos and Magali, you both nailed it. Magali, you got the first one. Michael also got the first one. Carlos, you nailed the second one, though, and that is you don't want to tie up your cash. It's leverage, right? If I have more than 50% equity in that property, my money is not working hard enough for me. Guys, the whole thing, if you want to be rich, right? This is so important. You want to be wealthy to the point where you can do whatever you want, buy whatever you want, spend time with whoever you want, do whatever you think you want to do. Guess what? You're going to have to get in a position where you're making money, whether you're awake or asleep. Your money is making money for you, and you don't have to go to work for money. It's working for you. That's what I'm teaching you how to do here, okay? So we want to make sure we're taking as much of that as possible and putting it back into buying more properties. I will tell you this, about every 4 to 6 years at most, you should be able to pull out money out of rental properties you've already purchased and go buy more. You should be able to double the size of your portfolio, easily double the size of your portfolio every 4 to 6 years. That's a very big deal. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Michael, I'm already 55 or 60 years old or whatever. Is it too late for me? No, it's not too late. Are you dead yet? okay, then it's not too late. Get in the freaking game, right? We know you're going to die eventually. We all are, right? But at the end of the day, whether you do something now or you do something later, you're always going to wish you'd done something 10 years earlier. I guarantee it. How many of you, watch this, how many of you give me an amen if you wish you would have bought more properties 10 years ago? Just put an amen in the comments there. I'd love to see that. All right, so I want 25 to 50% equity. I also want to have 25% arbitrage. Okay, now what is, look at this, I'm getting my amens. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. All right, 25% arbitrage. What does that mean? That is the difference between PITI, that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. If my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance add up to $3,000 per month, right, then my rent must be $4,000 a month or more. Minimum $4,000 a month. Guys, this is huge. Or should I say, in the Trump economy, it's huge, right? All right. It's terrible Trump impression. Somebody's going to have to do a better one for me and post it in the comments. But you get my point. Now, does this mean I'm making $1,000 a month on that property? No, I'm not. What does this mean? That means that I've got at least $1,000 a month in room, but I still got maintenance and vacancy that I go to account for. Now, if I'm renting retail, a good chunk of that's going to get taken up with the vacancy and maintenance. Excuse me. Now, if I'm renting to institutions, it's going to be a lot lower amount, right? I have virtually zero vacancy on my institutional properties. Why? Because they're not rented by the house, they're rented by the room predominantly, right? And so they're usually filled up. And so what that means is I have less turnover. Less turnover means less maintenance, because every time I turn a property over, guess what I got to do? I got to do carpet and paint at the very least if I'm buying in good areas. If I'm buying in the ghetto, which a lot of people do, right? Especially first-time investors, it's a huge mistake in my opinion, but it just depends. If you have to do that to get started, then that's what you got to do. But ideally, you want to buy better houses in better neighborhoods. Why? Because people take better care of them and you have less turnover. And every time I have turnover in a low-end neighborhood, guess what happens? Not only do I have to do carpet and paint, now I also have to do cabinets. There's doors on cabinets broken off. There's appliances damaged. They might even steal the appliances. Heck, they might steal the air conditioning unit. And once in a while, they pull the copper out of the walls, right? So I've got to make sure that I'm buying in areas that I'm going to have the lowest propensity to have that type of thing happen. Now, I tend to, not always, but I tend to normally buy nicer homes in areas that I would live in a pinch, homes that I would live in a pinch. I also don't prefer, I'm not saying I never do, I'm just saying I don't prefer to buy things older than 1978. Why? Because I don't want to deal with things like galvanized pipes, lead-based paint, asbestos, knob and tube wiring, aluminum wiring, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things I don't want to deal with. Or how about this? In Chicago, great example. In Chicago, I don't want to be dealing with cast iron pipes, and even worse, sometimes those drain lines that go from the house to the street are literally wooden drain lines. I'm not even kidding you, wooden sewer lines. Can you imagine a wooden sewer line that's buried 4 or 5, and if they got a basin, it could be 10, 15 feet deep. Can you imagine? That's craziness, right? And so guess what? I don't prefer those. All right. So any questions on what I buy, type them into the chat. But this is just an example of my rules. And if I ever want to take money out of a property, I got to make sure that after I take my money out, it's still going to meet these rules. Okay, very important. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Michael, I can't find deals like that in my market. That's okay. I'm going to show you an alternative in just a second. Okay, now we're going to save this aside because we're going to be coming back to this free falling. Okay, so let's just set this over here for a moment. Kind of a rough wall. Let's hope it sticks up there. All right, now watch this. So how do we structure these deals, right? Actually, before we do, let's talk financing. How do we finance these? There's two main ways to finance investment properties, okay? There's conforming and there's non-conforming. You need to understand both, okay? So conforming loans, this is what most lenders do. Why do most lenders do conforming loans? Because generally speaking, you can get a better interest rate. A conforming loan is you go down to your lender and your lender checks your credit and they check your income and they check your employment history and all this stuff. And they do a full loan application. And then they say, okay, we're going to charge you 10 or 20% down and we're going to give you this interest rate and blah, 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 blah. So, a lot of times you can get in for a little bit less down. Sometimes you still have to do your 20% down. But at the end of the day, your interest rate's going to be a little bit lower than it would be on a non-conforming loan. And it's going to be tied to your credit. That's the downside, is that it shows up on your credit report. Now, the problem is that most lenders, they're playing checkers when they need to be playing multi-level chess. What do I mean by that? A lender that's playing checkers is trying to get that deal done. And they're trying to get you the best deal they can on that particular loan. That's checkers, okay? Multi-level chess is, okay, I understand that we could get this, 6.25% interest rate on this particular deal here, if we go with a conforming loan. But I also recognize that you want to buy more houses. And if we do it in that way, if we do it on a conforming loan, your debt to income ratio is going to be impacted, and it's going to make your debt to income ratio look worse every time you buy a house using a conforming loan. Whereas if we instead went with a non-conforming loan, if we go with a non-conforming loan, and there's two different varieties we're going to talk about. There's DSCR and there's no ratio DSCR. Okay, now watch this. If instead we go with a DSCR loan, every time you buy a property, it's going to make it easier to buy the next one. Why? Because this loan is not going to show up on your credit. It's going to show up on the corporation's credit because you're going to buy that in an LLC, right? And you still get credit for the income, but you're not penalized for the debt. So literally with each one of these, all that income makes your debt to income ratio look better and better and better and better. The more of these you do, the easier it is to buy more properties. Guys, it's insane. Now, what's the downside? Why wouldn't we always do this, you say? Well, because the interest rates are usually a little bit higher, right? You might be, first of all, you're going to be 20% down, and then you might be at, let's say, instead of 6.25%, you might have to pay 8.25% or 9.25% to get that particular house. Or maybe not. Maybe you're only on a straight DSCR. I can tell you, more often than not, straight DSCRs are not a big spread from a conforming loan. You might only have to pay, if conforming rates are 6.25%, you might only have to pay 6.75% or 6.5% to get that loan. In fact, from November to February of this last year, we actually saw DSCR loans at cheaper rates than conforming loans. But most lenders didn't know that because they're not following the DSCR loans. They don't understand them. They're not doing them often enough. And by the way, shameless plug, if you're interested, by the way, if you guys would like to know who I use, who my lender is, and you want me to get you in contact with my lender, type in lender in the comments and I'll get you connected to my lender. I will tell you this, guys, you need a lender that knows how to play chess and really multi-level chess with this stuff so you can keep buying stuff and so your clients can keep buying more stuff. And I tell you, I use the same lender on all my stuff, and it's made a world of difference in my ability to finance more properties and to grow my portfolio. All right, now let's take it another step further. DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. Here's what's interesting about that. That means there's no qualifying for it. All you have to have is a 620 credit score. And if the house meets these rules that I described earlier, if it meets that 1% rule, guess what will happen? All of a sudden now, they will make that loan and they don't even check your employment history, verification of employment. They don't check your tax returns, all that kind of, they don't care about any of that stuff. It's almost like a stated income loan. It's very close. And it gets really close to a stated income. Remember the old stated income loans from back in the day? Well, this no ratio DSCR is exactly like a stated income loan, and here's how that works. So I buy these institutional properties, right? And Michael, absolutely, 100%, I'll get you in contact with her. And so we'll do that in just a second. And by the way, Camille, if you could do me a favor, if you could reach out to Madison and have her go into these comments and start responding to everybody. So it's actually, Michael, it's my daughter, Madison, that does these loans. She's actually she owns a branch of Nexa Mortgage. She's actually, UWM this is the second year in a row that she is receiving their national award for consistently fastest close times. Her average closing from application to close is, get this, 12 days. From application to close. What? I'm not even kidding you, dude. It's crazy. And she's killer on rates. She's communicative. Like, I hear updates from her when I want my updates. Like, she leaves me alone when I don't need her, but dude, it's great. All right. So that being said, when I buy my properties, a lot of times I'm renting to these institutions, which means if a property would normally rent for, let's say $3,000 a month, right? Then the 1% rule says I can only pay $300,000 for that house. But if I'm renting to an institution, right, a nonprofit, a battered women's shelter, whatever, right? If I'm doing that type of property, then I could probably get $3,500 for that same house, which means now I can pay $3,000 or $350,000 for that house. But here's the thing: when they go out to do a DSCR loan, remember, they're going to do a rent comp analysis. The appraiser is not only going to appraise it to see if the value is there, but they're going to see if they think that the average property in the area will rent for that 1% rule. The problem is, if I'm getting that increased amount instead of $3, now I'm getting $3,500 a month. The problem is those rent comps aren't going to reflect that. So the bank's going to say, no, we don't want to do that because it doesn't qualify for the 1% rule. So I have to do what's called a no ratio DSCR, which really all it means is that I can extend beyond that 1%. I can go to one, like let's say, for example, that I'm only getting 0.8 or even 0.7% of the purchase price as far as what the actual rent comps show. But I know I'm getting 1% or more. I want that house. They'll do the deal, but they'll charge me, instead of 20% down, they'll charge me 25% down. And instead of 6 1/8 or 6 1/4 or 6 1/2 or whatever, now I'm going to pay 9 1/4, 9 1/8, 9 1/2, whatever. And that sounds terrible, but here's the cool part. 6 to 12 months later, when I can show a history of bringing in $3,500 on that house per month, now I can do a rate and term refinance. So I'm not taking cash out. I'm just going to do a rate and term refinance, and I get my rate down to that 6 1/8, 6 1/4, whatever happened, the rate happens to be at that point in time. Guys, this is a great strategy, and what it means is you're able to get into these properties, and you're going to cash flow day one from them, but you're going to be able to increase your cash flow in 6 to 12 months substantially by lowering that interest rate. All right. Any questions on that? Feel free to type them into the chat. So I like these DSCR and no DSCR loans. As far as I know, I'm not familiar with anybody that does more DSCR and no ratio DSCR loans than Madison does. So again, if you guys want her contact info, type lender into the comments, and I'll make sure that we get her to reach out to you. And her name is Madison Hellickson, by the way. It's my daughter. All right. So, whoa, let's get rid of that. Pull the whole thing off. Hang on. That did not go as planned. All right. Let's see if I can make this go back up there. Pull that off. That was awesome. All right. Here we go. So we're going to talk really quick about structure. Okay. You guys ready for this? So how do we structure these deals? This is very important from an asset protection standpoint as well as from a wealth creation standpoint. I always start with a trust. I like to have it's what's called a revocable living trust. All that means, let's demystify this for a second. Revocable just means I can change it during my lifetime. Living simply means I'm alive when I create it. When I die, it's going to become an irrevocable trust, and the word living won't be in the title anymore, okay? And all that means is that I'm dead, right? And so that's going to happen. And it means that it's no longer changeable because it's irrevocable, all right? So because I'm again dead, and so now it's irrevocable. All right. So that trust is at the top of everything I do. Everything else falls under that. Now, nobody knows the name of my trust. I don't want anybody to know the name of my trust, okay? And so then I have two entities below that. These are both Wyoming LLCs. Now, why do I use a Wyoming LLC instead of Delaware or Nevada Corporation or something like that? Because in my opinion, and remember, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, I'm just a rich dude that's got great CPAs and attorneys that work for him. They've done a great job, and I've learned a lot about this over the last 33 years. And this is what I've determined is the best strategy for me. I recommend it for you as well. So I want this because a Wyoming corporation, one of the reasons, and there's more than this, but one of the reasons is because a Wyoming corporation is what's called a COPE entity. Write that down, COPE, okay? COPE, and you're correct, Michael. It means one of the things is you don't have to tell ownership. In other words, you get anonymity with this particular structure that you don't get everywhere else. So this is a very big deal. Wyoming is, in my opinion, the best structure. So my holding companies are going to be Wyoming LLCs. Okay. And by the way, all of my LLCs are LLCs filing as a subchapter S. That gives me the protection of an LLC, and it gives me all the benefits from a tax standpoint of a subchapter S. Okay. So I have my personal holding company, and I have my partner holding company. Okay, very straightforward. Now, my personal holding company, this is where all my stuff and my family's stuff goes. My partner holding company, this is stuff I do, like partnerships I do with people that are not blood relatives, okay? Very simple. Why do I separate the two? Because I want to protect everybody from everybody else. I want to protect me. I want to protect the structure. For me, it's a great way to organize it. There's not a lot of magic in having these two. You could easily do it just under one. I just like to do it that way because it keeps it cleaner for me. Okay. Now, underneath those, I have my state-specific LLCs. Okay. This is very important. So I have a Washington LLC, right? Because I've got a couple of houses here that we use for our family, and then I've got our commercial buildings here. Now, I don't buy rental properties in Washington State anymore. I shouldn't say never. I guess I would, but it'd be pretty unlikely because I can't make the numbers work. And so that being said, I still have to have the corporation here. I've got the Ohio, I've got Illinois, I've got Oklahoma, I've got you name it. I've got a different LLC for each state that I do business in. Now, some people would tell you, oh, you just put everything in one LLC. That's terrible advice. Let me tell you why. If everything's in one LLC, and maybe you can type this in the chat, what do you guys think? What's the downside to putting everything in one LLC? Type it into the comments. I'll tell you what I believe the downside is. If someone gets hurt in my house and I've got all my houses in one LLC and they sue me, guess what? They're suing that LLC as well. And they can go after everything that LLC has. All of the stuff that it owns, they can go after. And so it increases dramatically my liability. Yes, that's exactly right. I love it. You guys got that right. Okay, now, how about this? What do you think? Type this in the chat. Why not put every single property in a separate LLC? Because that's another strategy a lot of people do, right? They have a separate LLC for each and every property they own. Why don't I want to do that? Well, here's why. Every one of these is going to cost me $1,200 to $2,200 per year in tax and legal expense. Okay. Now, I don't want to incur that more than I have to. So here's kind of my formula. I'll give you a couple of suggestions on what I would do in terms of how many LLCs you need to have. Okay. And yes, too many filings is a big part of it. Now, watch this. If you have 5 or fewer rental properties, I would recommend you do a separate LLC for each of your rental properties. Why? Because starting from 0 is a lot harder than starting with 4 properties, for example, right? If you lost everything, if you had 5 properties and somebody sued you on one of them and they took everything you had, starting over is really, really, really hard. But it's a lot easier to go from, to go from 0 to $1 million is really hard. To go from $1 million to 10 million, it's not that hard. To go from 10 to 100 is actually even easier than from going from 1 to a million, from 100, from 1 million to 10 million. So what I'm saying is, I don't want you to lose everything. So if you've got 5 or fewer, make sure that they are each in their own LLC. Now, if you have more than 5, here's the formula that we recommend. I like to keep, when I start that LLC, the day that LLC is put in place, I don't want to have more than $350,000 in equity in properties in that LLC. So let's say I buy 4 properties and their aggregate equity in those properties is $350,000 on day one. That's fine. And if they grow in value over the next 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden there's $1 million plus in there, I'm not feeling like I need to pull that out. I've gone and I've bought other properties and all that, right? So I'm not going to separate those out into their own LLCs at that point. I just want to make sure that when I start, that I've got no more than $350,000 in any one LLC. Okay, super simple. Now, another thing that I do is I use what are called sub or series LLCs. This is a great savings. This one's a hack for you. You got to write this down. This is a super good hack. All right. So in the sub or series LLCs, that's where I keep the houses. And get this, what's really interesting is that these only cost me $600 to $800 per year in tax and legal expense instead of the $1,200 to $2,200 that the LLCs cost. Okay, super big savings. It's a lot easier from an accounting and tax perspective. All right. Any questions on that? Throw them in the chat. Happy to answer them. All right. Now let's go over to partner LLCs, right? Or partner holding company, and that whole side of my equation. So for those of you that are in areas where you think, man, Michael, I can't find stuff that meets the 1% in my area. Maybe I'm on the West Coast or even the East Coast or any number of places around the country, any resort market, whatever. A lot of those places, you can't find those deals. So what do? Well, I don't buy there. I live in Washington State. So where do I buy? I buy predominantly in the Midwest and Florida. Those are the predominant places I buy. Now, you got to be careful in Florida. One thing you got to be aware of in Florida is that the insurance rates, first of all, taxes are pretty high. but insurance just went up there. And I think insurance is going to close to double, if not double, here in 2025 in Florida. Now, that being said, I still think Orlando is a great market. I think Orlando in particular is a very strong buying opportunity market, as well as some other markets in Florida. But you got to be aware, and you've got to factor into your equation that you're going to have a much higher insurance expense in 2025 than is currently on that property today. All right. Now, that being said, let's say you're thinking to yourself, hey, Michael, can I just partner with you on this? Like, could you just, go buy these things for me and we just be partners on it? Short answer is yes. And I'm going to show you how you could do that with me and how you could just do it with your clients too. Like maybe you're really good at finding these deals. Maybe you live in an area where you can get 1% rule deals all the time. I'm going to teach you about real estate investment partnerships right now. And I'm going to give it to you in the simplest terms I can so that you can make money whether you decide to be the managing partner or the capital partner. So let's define those. The managing partner, this is the person that does all the work, right? This is the person that finds the properties. They negotiate the deals. They close the properties. They work with the attorneys and the lenders and everybody to make these things happen. Then they also find the tenants. They manage the tenants. They do everything. If there's rehab to be done, they do the rehab. All of it, soup to nuts, all the work is the managing partner's responsibility. Then there's the capital partner. The capital partner is the person that puts up the money for the down payment, closing costs, rehab, whatever needs to be done. The capital partner puts up the money up front. Now, when this happens, the two split the ownership of the property. So the managing partner has zero money in the deal and 100% effort. The capital partner has 0% effort in the deal and 100% capital in the deal, 100% money in the deal, right? Super simple. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Michael, I don't want to do that. Why would I split, why would I put all the money up and then split it with somebody? Well, don't. Then you should just do it yourself, right? And likewise, if you are in a market where you're really good at finding these deals at 1%, what you should be doing is you should be looking for capital partners and you should be a managing partner. Now, I've got a ton of other people, lots of clients and people that are not even in the real estate industry that come to me and they say, hey, Michael, I would love to be a capital partner with you. What does that look like? And so generally speaking, across the board, I'm talking pretty much all the big players out there. When they are a managing partner, they will charge their capital partner as follows. Capital partner puts up all the money for the down payment closing costs. They also put up $5,000 for a reserve account to be used for management of the property, right? So when there's repairs or whatever that needs to happen, that reserve account is there for that. Then they also pay on acquisition, usually a $10,000 acquisition fee. Now, I don't charge that. Most people do. If you choose to charge that, more power to you. Great. I just don't charge it because I get a referral fee from the selling agent when I buy these things. And so I just take that. That's fine. It ends up being like 0.7%. So it's not a big deal. But it saves me and it makes it so I don't have to charge an acquisition fee to my partners. The other thing the managing partner will do is they will charge the capital partner a 10 to 12% management fee. I also don't do that. Normally they charge that from day one, the day the property is acquired. I don't do that until my capital partner has got their money back out of the deal. What does that look like? So my capital partner eventually we're going to do a refinance on that property. When we can refinance it, take their money back out and still have it meet those guidelines. At such time as they've done that and they've taken all their capital back out, that reduces the monthly cash flow on that property, which means I'm making less money on that property, at which point it's fair for me to then charge a 10% management fee going forward, right? But what's really cool about this is at that point, my capital partners have no money invested in the deal and they still own half the house. And so they're getting all the benefits, right? They're getting the appreciation, tax benefits, all that stuff. They're getting all of it. And yet they've got no money invested in the deal. And usually what they'll do is they'll just go out and buy another one with me. Sometimes they'll just take it and just, go buy a boat or whatever they want. I don't know. It's their money. All right. So what does this look like? Let's talk about how to structure these deals really quick. Now, hang in there, guys, because I'll tell you, as soon as we get done with the investing side, I'm going to go into how to make more money selling real estate in the Trump economy, right? Essentially what I'm talking here about is I'm talking about how do I get more leads coming in? How do I follow up with them? How do I close those leads? How do I make sure that I'm building an organization that's going to make me money when I sleep instead of me having to work for money all the time selling real estate? All right, now watch this. To structure these partnerships, here's what it looks like. My partner, let's just say somebody type into the chat. If I need a first name that I can use as an example. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll just use Carlos. All right, Carlos, you're going to be my partner, all right? So Carlos, has the Carlos Trust. Okay. Now, Carlos Trust owns Carlos Holding Company. Okay. Now, so Carlos has his trust owns his holding company. This is probably a Wyoming LLC or whatever he's chosen to do. Then Carlos and his holding company and my holding company get together and they have a little baby holding company. All right, Carlos, don't get weird on me, dude. It's not that big a deal, all right? So it's going to be the baby holding company here, all right? Yeah, this is going to be the best holding company ever. It's going to be the biggest. It's going to be huge. I'm just kidding. I'm going to work on my Trump impression the entire time for this one because, well, we're talking about the Trump economy. All right. So we're going to have this little baby holding company. That's where we keep the property. So his holding company owns 50% of it. My holding company owns 50% of it. All the benefits roll down on the K1. Super, super simple. Now, I'm going to take this a step further. Some of you might have clients, and you might be thinking, Michael, I can't find these deals for my clients in my market. Can I just refer them to you? And the answer is yes. And not only can you refer them to me, but when you refer them to me, any deal they do with me, here's how it's going to be structured. I'm going to own 50%. The client is going to own 45%. The partner is going to own 45%. And you, because you referred them to me, you're going to own 5% of that. And all you have to do is put up $10. Why $10? Because there has to be a consideration for the agreement, right? But literally, you're going to get 10% of all the benefits. You're going to get 10% of the cash flow, of the equity, of the tax benefits, all of it. You're going to be a 5% owner in that company, which owns that house. All right. Now, I got a couple of questions before we keep moving on. Let me start with this one is from March in Pensacola. Says, when you cash out refi, will it only be in the capital partner's name or still in both of your names? That's a very interesting question. The initial loan is actually not even in the capital partner's name. It's only in my name. So, and actually, let me rephrase. The loan itself is in the LLC's name. I am the one personally guaranteeing that loan in the beginning. Okay. And so for the first 5, 6 years, however long it takes us to be able to refinance and get your money back out, then I'm the only one that has to personally guarantee the loan. So if something goes wrong, they're coming after me, right? All right. Now, that being said, when the refinance is done, yes, that is done with my capital partners credit if they have at least a 620 credit score. Why do we do it this way? Because of the number of properties I buy, every time I buy a property, even though the property is not going on my credit report, they still check to make sure I've got a 620 credit score. So my credit report is taking a hit with every one I buy. So my credit score drops just a little bit every time they check my credit. So what happens is, for 4 to 6 months, all the stuff we buy with my credit. Then the next 4 to 6 months, we do it with my wife's credit while my credit recovers. And then the next 4 to 6 months, we do it in her, we just alternate back and forth. Now, on the refinances, that's why we use we have our partners use their credit score. So they're checking their credit and then they become the personal guarantor at that point. But they've again got 100% cash back out of it. Their money is all back out of it in their hands. So great question, March. Appreciate that. And let's go to Carlos. And I'm seeing these in the Facebook chat too. Thank you for putting them in here as well. Carlos asks, so the managing partner and the capital partner split ownership 50-50. Yes. Have you ever had your partner buy you out of the other 50 when they cash out refi? The answer is no. I'm never going to be bought out. And the reason why is because I don't want to be bought out, man. That means I got to go find more. The hard part's finding the stuff, right? Putting these deals together is the hard part. Getting the money is the easy part. All right. Now, that being said, if my capital partner wants me to buy him out all day long, I buy him out. I have no problem with that because it just means I own more real estate, right? I'm happy to do that. Why do I even do capital partnerships? So why do I even do these partnerships? And I only do it with about 25% of my portfolio. And I'm going to recommend you try and do the same if you can. But the reason for that is because there's only so many that I can buy every month, right? I can only buy so many properties each month myself. And so I buy as much as I can. So the other 25% of the deals I'm finding, I do with my partners. Now, that number grows and shrinks based on how many people want to do partnerships with me. And this is where you guys need to really be thinking, okay, again, whether you're going to be a capital partner or managing partner, partnership's a great way for both people to do very well with real estate investing based on their skill set, based on their abilities, all that stuff. And so as I have more people come to me and say, Michael, we want to do partnerships with you, that means that puts me in a position now, I've got to go work hard to go find more deals. And so that's kind of how we balance it. And we try and keep that ratio at about 25% of our stuff is partners and 75% is just stuff we own ourselves. Great question. All right. And yes, Susie, this is being recorded. I know it's a lot of information fast. What you'll want to do is you'll want to send this, tag your loved ones in it, tag people, your accountant, your attorney, whatever, tag everybody in it, share it with them. Hit the share button so you can actually share it to conversation you might have with them in chat. And that way you don't lose it and you can come back and you can listen to it again. All right. So let's keep going. Any questions on the structure here, guys? And by the way, thanks for the loves and the likes there. I'm seeing those buttons go off. Thank you very much for that, you guys. I appreciate that. If you're not following me, follow me on social, guys. I'd love to help you out. But let's keep going. All right, we got more to talk about. Let me scroll back up here. Got to find there we go. All right, we're going to do, here's the big one. How many of you paid taxes last year in 20 or will pay taxes this year? I want to know anybody that's paid $1 or more in tax from 2022 to now, or feels like they will. I want you to type tax into the chat. I want to see how many of you are paying taxes. I'm talking federal income tax, okay? So if you paid taxes or if you're going to pay taxes anytime between 2022 and 2024, I want you to type in tax in the chat. This is going to be interesting. And look at this. Oh, I'm seeing some tax. Michael's like, oh no, taxes. All right, well, watch this. I'm going to show you I'm going to show you 3 ways. I'm going to show you 3 different ways right now to never pay federal income tax again. You ready for this? Let me tell you something. This is a freaking big deal. Was it Benjamin Franklin? I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said the best way the fastest way to save money is the avoidance of tax. Okay, think about that. The avoidance of tax. We're not talking evasion. Evasion's illegal. Okay, we're talking about the avoidance of tax. Remember that statement I told you about earlier? Donald Trump made what I think is the most honest statement I've ever heard ever in politics. And it was when he was debating Hillary Clinton. And you guys might remember this. And again, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It was a very interesting moment in American history. By the way, gotta love America. All right. So that being said, what was the comment? Hillary says, "You're a crook because you don't pay taxes." And Donald Trump, without skipping a beat, looks her square in the eye and says, "No, that doesn't make me a crook. That makes me smart. That makes me someone who understands the tax code and takes advantage of it." And by the way, so do every single one of your donors that are these billionaire donors. None of them pay taxes either because they take advantage of the tax code in exactly the same way I do. And that's why the tax code hasn't changed, because if it did, you wouldn't have the donors that you have today. Guys, whether you realize this or not, the system is designed for rich people to get richer. And you either get that and you take advantage of it, or you're going to be taken advantage of by it. So the system, knowing that the system is designed that way, what we have to do is we have to learn, how do I take advantage of that? How do I make sure that I am not paying taxes? Because I'll tell you what, think about all the money you've paid in taxes in the last, let's just say in the last 3 years. If you could take every dollar that you've paid in taxes in the last 3 years and instead you could put that into real estate, how different would your life be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How different would your kids' lives be? What could you do with that money? What could that money do for you? Think about this for a second, you guys. At the end of the day, if you're paying taxes, it's your own fault. And by the way, if you're using H&R Block or any of those guys for your freaking taxes, you deserve to be broke. Like, seriously, you got to start working with somebody that actually understands the tax code at a deep level and understands how to make sure that you're not paying a dime more than your fair share. And frankly, if you're a real estate professional, your fair share should be 0 at some point. Let me show you how. So I'm going to give you 2 different ways, okay? Actually, I'm sorry, 3 different ways. Number 1 is depreciation. Okay, now this is huge. I go out, I buy that house for $500,000. Okay, that $500,000 house, the value of the land is going to be probably $100,000. Now, this depends on where you buy and all that stuff, but just in the Midwest where I tend to buy most of my stuff, it's going to be about $500,000. That's the land value. Then the other $400,000 That's the improvement value, okay? The value of what's built on land, the house, the apartment building, the commercial building, the oil well, whatever it is, right? The hotel. Those are improvements on the land. There's structures. And the government says, hey, look, we get it. Those things are going to go down in value over time, right? Stuff's going to wear out. The roof's going to wear out. The carpet's going to wear out. The appliances, the light fixtures, whatever. It's all going to wear out over time. So we're going to give you a tax deduction on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to let you take that $400,000. We're going to divide that by 27 and a half years, right? And so every year for the next 27 and a half years, you get to deduct 127 and a half of 400,000 off of your taxable income each year. Now, without going through the mental gymnastics and the math on this, I can just tell you because I've done the math, that's going to save you, if you're in a 48% tax bracket-ish, that's going to save you just north of $6,700 a year on your taxes. In other words, you will not pay about $6,700 per year in taxes for the next 27 and a half years with that deduction. Now, watch this. If I paid $67,000 in taxes last year, and I want to not pay taxes this year, how many rental properties would I need to own to avoid all taxes for federal income tax? Type it into the chat if you think you can do the math on this. I'm curious and see how many mathematicians we got on the call. I'll give you the answer, all right? You've had your chance. Here's the answer. It's simple. You'd need 10. With 10 rental properties, you could completely avoid any federal income tax liability at that point. Super freaking simple, guys. This is big. Can you imagine if you showed this to your clients, how big a deal that would be to them? What if you could help them do this? And it gets even better. Watch this. So first of all of a sudden now I'm not paying taxes, okay? That's one way. Fast forward to like him, love him, hate him, call him the orange man, you call him a felon. I don't care what you call the guy. In 2021, Donald J. Trump got passed something called accelerated or bonus depreciation, okay? So accelerated or bonus depreciation. Now, what does this mean? This is a very big deal, all right? And so this accelerated depreciation means instead of having to use that deduction over 27 and a half years, I can take a majority of that in years 1 to 15. In fact, most of that in year 1. This is a very, very big deal. So what that means is, this is how it changes. Now, you have to qualify for this. Let's start with this. Not everybody gets this. The only people that get this are people that qualify as a full-time real estate professional. This is one of the ways. Now, this sounds worse than it is. Full-time to the government is what I think a lot of real estate agents think full-time is. It's 3.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, or a grand total of 750 hours per year. In my world, that's not even part-time. So I don't know, maybe you think it's full-time. I'd love to know, how many hours do you work every week? Type that in the comments. I'd love to see how many hours do you guys work. And yes, by the way, Susie, I can get you a referral to a great CPA. I'm going to tell you right now, though, the better the CPA, the worse their customer service, okay? I'm just telling you right now, my guys, their customer service is not stellar, but they are the best there is. Now, I don't know if my guys are taking referrals right now, if they're taking clients right now, but what I can do is if they're not, I have a network of CPAs I can refer you into that are all very good CPAs. So that being said, guys, this accelerated depreciation is the holy freaking grail. So what if I don't qualify as a full-time real estate professional? Okay. What if I don't work 3.5 hours a day selling real estate? And it doesn't have to be selling real estate. It could be selling real estate, investing in real estate. It could be managing properties, any of that stuff. Well, watch this. There's also a loophole. How many of you or how many of your clients, how many of you have a client? I just want you to type in STR for short-term rental. Type in STR in the chat if you or any of your clients own short-term rental properties. And by the way, Gene's saying working 80 hours a week. Man, that's crazy. That's a lot of hours. I would love to help you not have to work 80 hours a week anymore, okay? I can tell you right now, I can help you. I don't know what you're making right now, but I can tell you right now, I can make you the average sales price in your marketplace in annual net income working less than 50 hours a week if you'll follow the perfect daily schedule I'm going to share with you in our next segment today. All right, so look at you. Several of you have short-term rental properties and or clients that own short-term rentals. Well, watch this. If your client owns a short-term rental property and that client now manages that property. So they materially participate in the management of that property, meaning they do the majority of the management of that property. Guess what? They automatically qualify under the STR loophole for that property. So they could be a doctor, they could be an attorney, they could be a whatever, and not be a full-time real estate professional, but they own a short-term rental property. So now they qualify for this. You want to make a ton of money? Call everybody in your sphere of influence, everybody in your database that owns a short-term rental property, and tell them, hey guys, if I could save you $100,000, or, if I could save you a bunch of money on your tax, if I could get you a tax refund on the last couple of years' taxes, would you be willing to take that money and go put it into more rental properties? Of course, they're going to say yes, right? You want to make a ton of money? Call every short-term rental property in your entire market and have that same conversation. How much do you think you could make then? I mean, holy cow, guys, the sky's the limit. Now, watch this. Let me tell you how good this deduction is. On that $500,000 house, $400,000 in improvement value, I'm going to save. Watch this. I'm going to save about $69,000. $69,000 year one. Okay. Now, truth be told, it was even better in 2022 when it took effect. I got 100% of this deduction. Now in 23, it went down to 80. In 24, it's at 60. In 25, it goes down to 50. Okay. So this has been a declining schedule. Why? Why has this been going down? Because the government, so when Donald Trump was trying to get this thing passed, he had to negotiate with the Democrats, and they didn't want to have this be an indefinite thing. So he had to agree to a schedule where it sunsetted over a period of time. Now, there's been some speculation, and I've been following this very closely. Some people are saying, well, Michael, would that go back up to 100%? Because see, what can happen is back in 2022 when we were doing this, I could literally write off. I could go put $100,000 down on a property, and I could write off about $125,000 on my taxes that year. That year one, I could write off $125,000. So, and then I would just take that money, I'd just go buy more properties. How often do you think I was doing that? As fast as I could, as often as I could, right? And so that being said, a lot of people are asking, is this going to go back to 100%? And after all the conversations I've had with my accountants and attorneys and the research I've done, I don't think he's probably going to take it back to 100%, even though he probably has the power to do it this go around because he's got the Senate and the House and he's got the executive branch and he's got the Supreme Court as well. I don't see it happening. I don't think they're going to do that. I think what's probably going to happen, again, this is speculative, okay? But I think what's probably going to happen is I think they'll probably fix that somewhere in the 50 to 60% range is probably pretty reasonable. But I think there's enough people out there that really want to see this thing stick around that it's probably not going to go anywhere, at least not in the next 4 years while Trump's in office. And if we get another conservative after that, who knows? Okay. So that being said, this is the holy grail. This is way number 2 that you should not be paying any federal income tax because guess what? I don't need a lot of these properties to completely offset all of my income, depending on how much money you're making. You don't need a ton, right? But that's another way. All right, let's go down. It looks like I got a couple of questions. Okay, nope, that's it. Okay, good, perfect. All right, so does it stay at 50% after years 4 and 5? No, it continues to go down until it goes to 0. So in 2026, it goes to I'm sorry, that's not 50, it's 40. I did that wrong. It goes from 100 to 80 to 60 to 40 to 20 in 26. And in 2027, it goes to 0. That's the current schedule, okay? But that should change. Now, oh, look at this. Carlos, you're a step ahead. I love the questions you're asking. Okay, so watch this. Some accountants, especially your H&R Block folks that really don't know what they're freaking doing, what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, Michael, you shouldn't do this. Why would you want to do accelerated depreciation? Because what if you want to sell that property in 3 or 4 years? Well, first of all, because there's this thing called depreciation recapture. Okay. So if I sell that property, the government wants the benefit back that I got from that property. So that's called depreciation recapture. So if I saved, let's say $40,000 on my taxes by owning that property for however long I owned it, then I go to sell it, they're going to want their 40 grand back. So here's the thing. There's 2 ways to avoid that. 2 ways that I'll never have to pay that. And Carlos, you mentioned number 1, and that's called a 1031 tax deferred exchange. I just roll that into the next property. No big deal, right? Super simple. All right. There's another way, and it's my personal favorite. You just die. What? Yeah, you just die, man. We're all going to die, right? So check this out. When I die, that $500,000 house, I'm going to live a long time, right? That $500,000 house, I guarantee that thing's going to be at least $3 million by the time I die. Well, guess what? When my kids get that property, when they inherit that property, not only do they not have to pay the depreciation recapture, they also get something called a stepped up basis. And that stepped up basis means they get to redepreciate the property from the new $3 million value. Are you kidding me? Guys, that is massive. This is the Holy Grail. I'm telling you right now, this is what we're all after. So if you think about it, you guys wrote a number down when we started today, right? You wrote a number down. And how many rental properties, how much money do you want to make in passive income each year without having to work for it, right? And so I'm going to give you the answer to the question, how many rental properties do I need to own to make that kind of money? If you said $10,000, I want you to divide that number by 1,000. Whatever number you put down, I want you to divide it by 1,000. And that's how many rental properties you need to own to make that much money each month. And it's going to be, you're going to be better than that, but I'm being very conservative here. Okay. And so if I need to make $100,000 a month in retirement income, how many rental properties do I need? I need 100. If I want to make $10,000 a month, I need 10. Now, again, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's a simple equation that if you live by that equation and you just use that as your guide and you're pushing for that number, you're going to be very, very happy. All right. Okay. That said, let's see. Was there another question here? I wanted to make sure I'm getting all the questions. Okay. Yeah, we are. All right. We're good to go. So we're going to move past that. And let me come back up to my last thing. Last thing we're going to talk about with investing in real estate is building generational wealth. Then we're going to get into how to make more money selling real estate. All right. Now, this is very important. There are 5 levels of generational wealth. Okay. We're going to talk about all 5 of them. Before we do, I need you to understand what generational wealth is. We need to define generational wealth. First of all, if you want to build generational wealth, type in wealth in the comments. I want to see, is this even something you guys want me to cover? So type in wealth in the chat so I can see how many of you want to hear this. All right. And yes, Sandy, good question. This is being recorded and you'll be able to see the replay right here on Facebook. All right. So that being said, let me tell you what I do. So with our kids, let's back up. There's 2 families. You got the Rockefellers and you got the Vanderbilts. The Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers in their time were each the wealthiest families of their time. Okay. Now, I love it. I'm getting some laughy faces on do I want to build wealth? Because everybody's like, yeah, I want to build wealth. All right, good. We're going to talk about this. Okay, so check this out. The Vanderbilt's fortune is gone. The Rockefeller's fortune still exists today. Why? Because they took 2 different approaches to building generational wealth. What the Vanderbilts did was they said, okay, we got all this money. We got this big pot of money. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that pot of money, we're going to chop it up, and we're going to give each of our heirs a piece of that pot of money. And that's going to be their inheritance. And it took a whopping 2 generations for that money to be completely gone. 100% of it gone. 2 generations is all it took. Okay. Now the Rockefellers, they took a different approach. They said, we're not going to give you the pot of money. We're going to give you a portion of the cash flow from the pot of money, but the pot of money is going to stay the pot of money and it's going to continue to go build more wealth for us. Now you're just going to get that portion of cash flow. So that's what we do as a family. By the way, the Rockefeller's fortune still feeds 200 families today. 200 families from something that was built decades ago. Guys, I want you to think about this. It takes one person to change the financial future for their family forever. I'm that guy for my family. Are you that person for yours? I have a hunch you are. I have a hunch that's why you're on here today. So watch this. Here's what we do. I'm going to show you what the Hellickson family does to build generational wealth. So my kids are both very successful at what they do. My daughter is one of the top lenders in the country. We talked about that. Those of you that want to get in contact with her, feel free to type lender in the comments and I'll make sure she reaches out to you. But she does very well. And then I've got my son, who is he's the number 1 listing agent in America today. He's in his first year, he listed 97 homes. Second year, he listed 120 homes. He's just now completing his 3rd year. 2024 is his 3rd year selling real estate. 150 listings this year for well over $1 million in GCI. And so doing pretty well, right? So what do our kids do? How do we do this with them? All right. this is what our kids do. So we have them they get a salary, right? So they get a small salary. I think right now they're getting a $67,000 salary. It's next year it's going to go up to 72 or something like that. And then they get 10% of the profits from their companies. That goes to them, okay? Now, here's the big number. 80% of the profit from each of their companies, 80% of that money goes into a family business, okay? Now, don't overcomplicate it. This is just a little LLC that money goes into temporarily. That money then, that family LLC, it buys a bunch of these, right? As soon as it's got enough money, it goes out and it buys houses. And I know by my drawing, you're probably not going to ask me to be on your Pictionary team, so no hard feelings. I get it. All right, but you should draw this. You're going to like this chart, okay? So I want you to draw this while it's still up here. Now, those properties make money, okay? So we take 70% of that money goes into that family business, 70%, okay? Now, what does that mean? That means that family business takes that money and goes and buys more properties. This is called, write this down, the flywheel effect, okay? This is the flywheel effect. It's very, very important, all right? Now, that means that your money is making money for you faster than you're spending it, because guess what? We only take 30% for the family, okay? Now, there's a book I want you all to read. You probably already read it. In fact, I'd love to know if you've read it, type in "I've read it" in the chat. I'm curious how many of you have read this. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. Fantastic book. It's kind of the Bible for money. If your kids are at least 8 years old, they're ready to read the book. I made my kids do their first book report on it when they were 8 years old. But it's great stuff. So I want you to read that book. It's the foundation for which you're going to begin building your wealth. Now, I told you there's 5 stages in building wealth. Okay. Oh, look at that. KT's read it. Hey, Ju Kim's read it. Awesome. Love it. Anybody else read the book? It's great. It's such a great book. I'm surprised not all of you have read it. Sandy's read it. Michael just finished. It's a good book, huh, Michael? Yeah. All right. So check this out. 5 stages of building wealth. Very straightforward. Okay. Struggle, write these down. I'm going to give you the title for each, and then I'll come back and I'll give you what the definition for each is. The title for each is struggle, survival, success, significance, legacy. I'm going to give it to you again. Struggle, survival, success, significance, legacy. Last time. Struggle, survival, success, significance, legacy. Very straightforward, all right? Now, here's the deal. Struggle is where most Americans live, right? This is where your passive income is less than your expenses each day, or excuse me, each month. Same thing. But your passive income is less than your expenses each month. That's struggle. Survival is when your passive income is equal to or greater than your expenses each month. Now, Robert Kiyosaki calls this getting out of the rat race, right? Success is when you can live on less than 30% of that positive monthly passive cash flow, okay? When you can live on less than 30% of that, that's success. Significance is how Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump don't pay taxes. You guys ready for this? This is the third way to avoid paying federal income tax legally. You ready for this? They don't take that 30% in income. Instead, they invest that 30% back into their portfolio and they just buy more rental properties from it. So hold on a second. The Donald needs a haircut, right? I mean, dude, it's going to cost him $100,000 if it costs him $1. It probably takes 20 people to comb that sucker over, right? So how in the world is he getting his freaking $100,000 out of this portfolio without taking any cash flow? Anybody guess? I'll tell you. He borrows it. He takes a loan out against those properties. And guess what? You don't pay taxes on borrowed money. So literally you take 100% of the cash flow and reinvest it, and then you just borrow that money against that portfolio every year. You can take it out tax-free. And all of a sudden you're not paying federal income tax. Now you're in significance. Okay, that's called significance. Now, let's take this a step further. What's legacy? Legacy is where I'm at now, where it's like not only, so first you get into significance, then what you need to do is you need to start teaching other people. You guys have probably all heard of Grant Cardone. Grant and I, we both kind of share a philosophy of, there's too many rich people out there that frankly, they figured out how to do it, and then they're stingy. They don't want to share that. They don't want to teach other people how to get wealthy, right? And I think that's a huge mistake in America today. I think we have an obligation to help the people that come after us. And if we want a strong America, right? You want a strong America, guess what? We're going to need strong middle class. And we're going to need to help people pull themselves up and become financially successful. In order to do that, we've got to teach people. Now, there's another thing I wanted to mention, speaking of Grant Cardone. One of the things that you guys will notice about Grant is he buys a lot of multifamily. Why does he do that? What is he the very best at? Grant is really good. He's a managing partner, right? So he has all these capital partners that give him a ton of money. There's nobody better at raising capital than Grant Cardone. But that means that he's got all this capital. He's got to get in play. And the easiest, fastest way for him to get that money in play is to buy multifamily. But here's the problem. Multifamily cap rates, the ROI on multifamily is lower than it is on single family. So I actually make more money. My cap rates, for example, Grant is happy with a 3 to 5 cap. I don't touch anything under a 10 cap. Most of my stuff is closer to 11 cap, and some of it's even 11 or 12 cap, right? And so that's just one metric we use to measure properties. But my point is simply this. At the end of the day, I get better returns on single family than I can get in multifamily. So that's why I invest in single family. I do have some multifamily and I have some commercial, and they do well for me also, but not as well as my single family. Okay. All right. That said, any questions on building generational wealth or anything related to investing before I move on to how to make more money selling real estate? Because that's next. Okay. So if you have any other questions on this, I see. Let's just scroll down here, make sure I don't miss these. And so Gene Storr asks, so the same property can be depreciated for 22 through 26? And the answer is yes. So you get and by the way, you can go back. Let's say you bought a property back prior to 2022 and it became a rental property. So you advertise it for sale. So that's called the in-service date, right? When did you first advertise it for rent? So whatever that in-service date is, let's assume that in-service date was on or before December 31st, 2022. Then you could go back and you could amend your taxes in 2022 and take that accelerated depreciation from 2022 on. So you get a big deduction year one, you get a smaller deduction years 2 through 5, and then you get a smaller deduction in years 6 through 10. 6 through 15. 6 through 15. And then you get an even smaller deduction. You take the rest of it over the remaining of the 27 and a half years. Okay. So that works whether you put that in service prior to 22 or 23 or whatever, but whatever the in-service date is, that's the time frame from which you get deducted. And it's calendar year, right? So if I do put it in service prior to December 31st, I get to claim accelerated depreciation for the entire year. Whereas a straight line depreciation, I take that and that happens on a prorated basis per month. Okay. But that accelerated depreciation, again, I get that big hit as long as I put it in service in that calendar year. Such a big deal. Okay. All right. We're moving on. That is all the questions there. It is time to talk about making more money selling real estate. You guys ready for this? I'm so excited. All right. Let's take care of this. I got to switch out my pad here. Oh, that sounded weird. All right. So let's get rid of the notepad. And where's my other one? Here's another one. Holy cow. I hope I got enough paper on here. Tara, find me another one. Camille, message Tara. Tell her I might need some more paper. I don't know. Otherwise, I'm going to be drawing with permanent ink on my whiteboard here. All right. I'm excited. Are you excited? Watch this. I'm going to promise everybody on this call right now, whether you sign up for coaching with us or not, and of course, I hope you sign up for coaching with us. I hope you come to one of our big events. I hope that you engage with us on social media and follow us. And so I hope you do all that stuff. That's great. But whether you do or not, what you're going to learn in the next hour and a half, I promise you, will help you. If you do exactly what I tell you, I promise you, you'll double your income this year. 100% guaranteed. Not even quite. Like there's 100% convinced you will at least make an extra. I'll go so far as to say you'll make an extra $250,000 or whatever your average sales price is in your market. If your average sales price is $400,000, I'm gonna tell you that if you follow exactly what I'm gonna tell you over the next hour and a half, you'll make an extra $100,000 or excuse me, an extra whatever that amount is that your average sales price is in your market in the next 12 months. So let's jump on this, okay? Here's what it is. There's only 3 things you can do that really move the needle in any business. It doesn't matter if it's real estate, sales, plumbing, electrical, computers, doesn't matter what business it is. There's only three things that really bring in the money. These three things are prerequisites. They are what are called determining factors. You've got contributing factors and determining factors. These are the three determining factors for all success in any business. You must do three things. Number one, lead generation. If you don't have leads, you don't have a business. There's a lot of different ways to generate leads, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them. But you have to have leads. I don't care how great your service is. If nobody knows about it, if you don't have leads that are interested in your service, you're not doing any business. Okay? Next, you must be good at, and let me rephrase, in real estate today, you must be great at lead follow-up. Everybody thinks they've got a lead generation problem, but I'm telling you right now, more people in real estate have a lead follow-up problem than a lead generation problem. And frankly, that's true for most businesses, okay? Most businesses, the problem isn't lead generation, it's lead follow-up. Now, finally, you have to have high-level lead conversion. That's it. Gotta convert these leads at a high level. If you're not converting leads at a high level, guess what? You're going broke. End of story. Okay. So I'm going to teach you how to do each and every one of these as it relates to real estate sales. Now, remember, when I sold real estate, I was closing 120 to 180 transactions every month. I did that by having a diversified lead flow. I want you to write that down. Diversify your lead flow. Okay. That's really, really important. If all your leads are coming from one place, guess what's going to happen? When that place dries up, your business dries up. If you've got 2, 3, 4 lead sources, you've got a better chance of stability, but you still are limited in the number of leads you have. I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to make 6 figures, I'm going to give you 2 examples. If you want to make 6 or 7 figures, if you want to make 6 figures consistently year in and year out selling real estate, you need 10 to 15 lead sources. Write that down. 10 to 15 lead sources to make 6 figures. If you want to make 7 figures net income selling real estate, you're going to need 35 to 55 lead sources. Period. Those are the numbers, guys. You're going to need 35 to 55 lead sources to consistently make a 7-figure net income. All right. Now, let's start by talking about lead generation. Okay. There's lots of different ways. I don't want you guys to stress out about what those ways are. In fact, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'll give you guys all a list if you would like it. If you would like my list of lead sources and just like a straight up, like I'll give you 17 of my best lead sources. Just type in lead sources in the chat. We'll see how many people want it. And if enough people want it, then I'll tell you how to get it. It's free. I'm not going to charge you for it, but we'll see how many people want it. But let me start by talking about the big 5. First of all, you have to understand lead generation is going to be determined by where you are in your real estate career. In other words, if you're a brand new agent, your lead generation sources are going to be different than somebody that's got a big team and is buying Zillow Flex and Realtor.com and all these other lead sources that they can just write a check for, right? Oh, a lot of people are wanting the lead sources. Let's see if I'll tell you what, let's see if we get a few more. I'll show you. I'll get you the list if I get a few more. So check this out. So there's 7 tiers in real estate. I want you to write these down. So take a piece of paper and just write down tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, all the way down to tier 7. I'm going to give you the definition of each. All right. Tier 1 through tier 7. And here's the definitions. Tier 1 is agents that close 0 to 25 transactions per year. Tier 2 is agents that close 25 to 75 transactions per year. Tier 3 is 75 to 150. Tier 4 is 150 to 250. Tier 5 is 250 to 500. Tier 6 is 500 to 1,000. And tier 7 is 1,000 units per year and more. I'm going to give it to you one more time. I know you guys are freaking out like I'm going too fast. Hang on. Okay. And Camille will probably also put this in the Facebook group or the Facebook post as well as the comments here. So it's, again, 0 to 25 is tier 1. 25 to 75 is tier 2. 75 to 150 is tier 3. 150 to 250 is tier 4. 250 to 500 is tier 5. 500 to 1,000 is tier 6. 1,000 units per year and more is tier 7. Now, some of you are probably thinking 1,000 units per year and more. Nobody does that. Well, first of all, yes, they do. It's all like Roger Bannister in the 4-minute mile. You guys remember that guy? So before he ran a 4-minute mile, people said, there's no way you can run a 4-minute mile. Your heart, doctors actually said your heart would explode if you ran a 4-minute mile. Well, he did it and his heart didn't explode. And so guess what happened the next year? A whole bunch of other people did it. Well, I'm the first person I'm aware of to break the 1,000 transactions in a year mark. And guess what? Guess what happened the next year? Others did it. And guess what happened actually, it didn't happen the next year. It was a few years later before the next person actually broke the 1,000 transaction mark. But last year, guess what? We had 38 different teams did over 1,000 transactions last year. 38. That's big, guys. In fact, did you know that 68 teams did over 600 transactions last year? Guys, that's crazy numbers. Here's my prediction. I truly believe that in the next decade, we're going to see 100 teams doing over 1,000 transactions a year and more, and they're going to control 75% of the marketplace. Did you know that, especially with all the TCPA stuff and all the NAR settlement stuff, that's all going to have such an impact on the business. You're going to see more and more of this going to teams, okay? Now watch this. You don't have to want to become a big team to do well selling real estate, all right? I'm going to show you the lead sources based on your tier. So here's what I need to know. I need to know who I'm talking to. So I need you guys to tell me, what tier are you in? And that's going to help me tailor what I talk about for the rest of our time together today. So type in tier 1 if you're doing 0 to 25 transactions a year. Type in tier 2 if you're doing 25 to 75 and so forth. Just type in what tier are you in, and I'm going to tailor my presentation to who I've got on the call today. Okay. All right. So keep going. I've got a couple of you. I need to see as many as possible. The more of you that type it in, the better. That helps me. I'll tell you that normally the majority of people are going to be in tier 1. The vast majority of real estate agents are in tier 1. I see so far I've got one tier 2. Everybody else looks like they're in tier 1. Let's see. Still just one tier 2. Everybody else is in tier 1. Oh, there's another tier 2. Okay. Keep going. Okay. Oh, I needed that drink. Okay. It's water, by the way. All right. Tier 2, tier 1. So pretty much everybody watching today is in tier 1 and tier 2. Okay, perfect. That's helpful. That way I'll focus 100% on you guys. So did I see a tier 3 come in? No, that was tier 2. Okay, good. All right, so watch this. Let's talk about lead generation for tier 1. Okay, if I'm in tier 1, there are 5, and really I'll say tier 1 and even tier 2 for the most part, okay? There are 5 key lead sources that I can utilize that don't cost a lot of money, because if I'm in tier 1 or tier 2, I have more time than money, right? If you agree with that, give me an amen in the comments, right? Now, it's truly, if I'm in tier 1 or tier 2, money is in short supply, but I've got time. I just need to know what to do with that time to get money coming in. And so I use the big 5. The big 5 always work. They work in any market, in any marketplace throughout the country, and they work every day. The question is, will you work for them? And you have to, because they're work. Here's the big 5. FSBOs, expireds, cold calls, open houses, sphere of influence. I'm going to give it to you again. FSBOs, expireds, cold calls, open houses, sphere of influence. FSBOs, expireds, cold calls, open houses, sphere of influence. Write that down. Now, I'm going to talk about these very quickly, all right? FSBOs and expireds. Even with the new TCPA rules coming out, they're fine. You can still call them, okay? And they work. You can make money on FSBOs and expireds. In fact, if I can get you to follow the perfect daily schedule, which I'll share with you later, guys, you got to remind me, if you want the perfect daily schedule, type in PDS in the comments. Just the initials PDS, that stands for perfect daily schedule. I just want to know how many of you are going to want to hear that. And I'll give you exactly the breakdown on what to do each hour of each day. That being said, if I can get you to follow that and call FSBOs and expireds every day, guess what? You can easily, that's one of many ways that you can make your average sales price in your market and net income every year. Okay. So in the next 12 months, if you're in a $400,000 market, all you got to do is FSBOs and expireds. That will get you to your $450,000 right now. All right. Next. And by the way, I don't recommend cold calls necessarily. In fact, I can tell you that for the most part, you're not going to do cold calls. In fact, I'll tell you this. By the time you get to tier 3 and 4, you're not doing most of this stuff. These big 5, this is temporary, right? for most of you, you're not going to do these things the rest of your career. You just have to get some money rolling in so you can buy some freaking leads, so you can do some marketing to get some leads coming in so that you're not chasing business and instead you're now attracting business, okay? Big difference, and we want to get you there. But in the beginning, it sucks. It's a grind. It's just hard in the beginning. So what does that grind look like? All right. If I don't want, let's say I don't want to start with physical expireds, because the physical expireds and cold calls are not the most effective on this list. The most effective is also not your sphere. Most people think it's sphere. The most effective thing right now on this list is open houses. In fact, did you know that open houses virtually everywhere in the country are on fire right now? I mean, they are gold mine right now. So here's what I want to know. How many open houses have you held in the last 30 days? Type it into the comments. I want to know, how many open houses have you had in the last 30 days? And the magic answer for making, and I'm going to, for sake of argument, I'm going to assume your average sales price is, I'm going to just say $400,000, okay? Because that's just below the median sales price in America. So if you want to make $400,000 this next year, all you have to do is 8 open houses per month. Oh, look at this. I got 2, 6, 2, 2, 1. Look at you guys. 3. I got some open housers here. Oh, that's great news. Okay. 4 and only had 3 people. Gene, I'm going to fix that for you right now. Are you excited? Watch this. You need to do 8 open houses a month to make your $400,000 a year. Now, you need to be getting 25 to 150 people out to each open house. And by the way, when you're getting those kind of numbers, you're going to make a lot more than $400,000 in the next 12 months. But how do I get 25 people to 150 people out to each open house? Type this in. Everybody type in how many people are coming to your average open house. I'm curious what your averages are. You know, how many people, how many different couples are coming to, or different buying groups are coming to your average open house? Okay. So here's the keys to getting 20. Oh, look at this. I got 3. These are good numbers, so keep throwing these out, guys. This is super helpful stuff. I'm asking everybody that question, not just Gene. So watch this. First and foremost, I got to pick the right house, okay? And what I mean by that is it doesn't need to be my listing. As long as I've got permission to hold it open, I want to pick a house that is in a move-up neighborhood. I don't want to do entry-level, because guess what I get when I do an entry-level neighborhood? I get entry-level buyers, right? What I want is a move-up neighborhood, because I want people that not only have the desire to buy a house, but they also very likely have a house they need to sell. Now I get twice as many transactions for the same amount of effort just by picking a neighborhood that's a move-up neighborhood. Not only that, the sales prices are going to be higher in that neighborhood than the entry-level neighborhood, which means I'm making even more money, all right? So it's a much better use of my time. Now, I want that house to be within a half mile to a mile of a major shopping center, okay? Within a half mile to a mile of a major shopping center. Now, I also want to make sure that I'm no more than 2 turns off the main road. These are all very important factors, okay, guys? It's super simple. Now, all of this is great. Citing that house, doing this is all very important. But what's the number one way that I can get more people to my open house? Type it into the chat right now. I want to know what you guys are doing for marketing. What do you think is going to get you more people to your open house than anything else? Type it into the chat. Okay, this is the single most important factor in getting more people to your open house. And I'll tell you, it's signs. You need to put out as many signs as you can. And how many signs should you put up? Watch this. Most of you are probably putting up 3 to 5 signs per open house is pretty normal, right? So you'll go out and you'll spend 5 minutes putting out signs, and you spend, 2-3 hours sitting in the house hoping somebody's going to show up. That's asinine to me. That's crazy to me. Why would you do that? When instead what you should be doing is you should be spending an hour and a half putting up signs. You should put up 50 or more signs, and then you spend 2 or 3 hours sitting in the house, and now you get a bunch of people through, and your time is worth money now. Now you're making some money there instead of sitting around waiting for people to show up, okay? Guys, this is a really big deal, all right? Now watch this. Let's take this a step further. And I love it, what I'm seeing there. You're doing Facebook, you're putting 10 signs up, you're doing a gift giveaway. That's all great. The gift giveaway only helps, by the way, if people know about it when they're driving in. So on your signs, you'd want to be like, a Starburst that says $100 giveaway or something like that. That might attract some people in, right? But if you're just using your regular signs and they get there and then you tell them there's a giveaway, you're really not getting a lot of bang for your buck. So I probably wouldn't do it. But again, you want to have at least 50 signs or more. Now, some of you might say, but Michael, what if the city takes my signs? Who freaking cares? Think about this. Great mentor of mine once told me, he says, Michael, Any problem I can write a check for isn't a problem. It's an expense. Now think about that for a second. So if I have an open house, I put up 50 signs and the city takes all 50 of my signs. And let's say it costs me $10 for my sign. By the way, you can get your signs for $5 all day long. That's the corrugated sign and the stake. And these don't need to be fancy A boards. Okay. I might have 5 A boards close to the house, but everything else is just going to be these corrugated signs, cheap signs with a stake. Right. And so I might spend, let's call it, $500 on signs, right? If I got $5 per sign times 50 signs, okay, what is that? $250 on signs. Let's say it was $10 a sign. It cost me $500. Big deal, right? If they take all of the signs and it cost me $500 to replace them, but I got 2 or 3 buyers out of that open house, was it worth it? Absolutely, it was worth it. I'll give you a great example. One of my coaching clients and one of our coaches at Club Wealth is a guy named Mike Bernier. Mike and his partner Long Doan own a brokerage in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Got just shy of 1,000 agents. Well, one of their agents this last February in Minneapolis in the snow. Okay, what do we know about Minneapolis in February? It's cold, right? And so in the snow, they're holding an open house on a townhome. But they followed our checklist, other than the one they picked. They followed our checklist. In the first hour, they had 77 people come out to that open house in 1 hour. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. It clogged up the parking lot so much that the police got called. The police came out and shut down the open house. Now, you would think that's a problem, but with 77 people there, guess what? This agent ended up selling 3 houses out of that one open house. Was it worth it? Absolutely. If he would have had the city take all his signs and had to pay $500, is it worth it? Absolutely. Guys, write this down. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Guys, there's going to be risk in this business. You got to decide, what level of risk am I okay with, right? And so I can tell you this, 50 signs or more on every open house will get you great results. All right. Now, there's a checklist. If you go to, and if you could do me a favor, Camille, if you could go to our blog and get the blog, the link to the Massive Open Houses blog post off of our blog and post that into the Facebook chat here, then I think everybody would appreciate that. If you guys would like that, just type in open house and I'll have Camille get you that. All right. So that being said, that's a great lead source. Now, another great lead source that can easily make you $400,000 in the next year is your sphere of influence. The key, though, is you've got to work it properly. Now, what does that look like? First and foremost, what is your sphere of influence? This is anybody that if you taught them how and reminded them, they're likely to do business with you or send you a referral at some point, okay? That's the definition of sphere of influence. So it could be anybody. It could be your family, your friends, the people in your phone, the people in your Facebook, all your Facebook friends, the people you went to church with, people you went to high school with. All of these people are potentially part of your sphere of influence, okay? So here's the key. This is really important. Most people, the average in the country is 250 people in your sphere of influence, okay? I want you to add everybody in there. If they got a pulse and they remember your name, put them in your freaking sphere of influence, all right? Now, most people they're going to get less than 10% of their sphere of influence in transactions annually from their sphere. What does that mean? If I have 250 people in my sphere, I'm probably doing fewer than 25 transactions per year from my sphere. Okay, stands to reason. So how do I up that number? I'm going to show you how in 12 days per year, that's it, just 12 days per year, you can take that number from 10% to 20%. So if you have a 250 person sphere, I'm going to show you how to get 50 transactions a year out of a 250 person sphere of influence and do it in just 12 days per year. Here it is. It's very simple. Write this down. You're going to do 4 client events per year, no matter what. 4 client events per year, no matter what. Okay. Now, what is a client event? It's simple. Okay. You don't overcomplicate this. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It could be a barbecue in your freaking backyard and you can have your lender bring the hot dogs, right? And everybody, by the way, you should have 2 lenders, okay? You need a local lender. That's the guy that brings the hot dogs to your client events. And then you've got your national lender. This is, the one that, and by the way, your local lender is fine if they're playing checkers. That's fine. It's not a big deal. As long as they're really, really good at playing checkers. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, your national lender needs to be somebody that knows how to play multi-level chess. Somebody that really has this figured out. However, that's my daughter, right? And again, if you want her to reach out to you, type lender into the comments and I'll have her reach out to you. Now, that being said, let's keep moving forward here. So on my client events, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas on things you can do that are cheap, but they get good results. One of our favorite client events at Christmas time is Photos with Santa. Now, we just missed that opportunity for this year, but I'll tell you that for next year, I would recommend you do that on the first Saturday in December at 10 a.m. Don't ask me why. We have researched this. I'm a data guy. We split test everything. In fact, the reason I'm not wearing a tie today is because we split tested it and we found that more real estate agents do more business with us when I don't wear a tie than if I do wear a tie. So guess what? I'm not wearing a tie. So I believe in split testing everything. With these Photos of Santa events, we have found that we get more people to show up at 10 a.m. on the first Saturday of the month in December than any other time. So it's not just about them showing up, however. I'm going to show you that in a second. But for that Photos of Santa event, you can spice it up with the Grinch. Everybody loves the Grinch, so have the Grinch there if you can. The Santa goes without saying, got to have Santa there. And there's online websites, so we can give you that link. It's on if you go to clubwealth.com, you can download from there. There's places where you can rent a Santa, pretty straightforward. Also, you can have elves there. I don't recommend the elves, and I'll tell you why, because nobody likes the elves. They're kind of creepy. We haven't gotten big bang for the buck out of the elves, so we don't do them anymore. You can have reindeer there. I would recommend the reindeer. In fact, I live just a couple miles from a reindeer farm here. I guarantee there's a reindeer farm somewhere in your area, and everybody loves the reindeer, and you can rent them and they'll bring them out. And they're actually pretty tame. They're pretty easy going. And so it's kind of cool to have the reindeer there. All right. That being said, the magic is not the client event itself. The magic is in what happens before the client event. Okay. Now watch this. Here's what I want you to do. When you do this, 3 weeks before the event, I want you to call all 250 or whatever your number is in your sphere of influence. I want you to call every one of those people, and I want you to do the following. I want you to BROT, okay, that's an acronym, stands for Build Relationships on Trust. And you're going to do that using the FORD, the Ford technique. Now, I always like to tell people, what does Ford stand for? Type it into your chat. If you guys know what Ford stands for, type it into the chat. I'll tell you that, a lot of people, sometimes I'll hear, oh, Ford, that's found on road dead, or fix or repair daily, right? Somebody even said one time, first on race day. I'm like, yeah, that's not a thing. So no, what does Ford really stand for, guys? Write this down. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. That's what Ford stands for. So what am I going to do? I'm going to call all 250 people in my sphere of influence, and I'm going to ask them open-ended questions about their family, their occupation, recreation, and dreams, so I can build that relationship on trust. Let me go deeper on this. Do people need to know, like, and trust you to do business with you? Yes or no? The answer is no. They don't have to like you. They do need to trust you, though. Right? And so check this out. A lot of people are under the misconception that, oh, I got to call and get people to like me. No, you just got to call and get people to trust you. Well, how do people trust you, right? They got to know that you care. Remember, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So here's what you're going to call them up. You can ask them those questions about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Get them to do 90% of the talking. That's the goal. Make it a game, right? How do I get them doing 90% of the talking? Now, you don't even bring up real estate unless they do. I would never, ever, ever call them up and say, oh, I'm having a client event. No, they know about your client event already because you've sent it out via email. You've sent text messages out. You've sent Facebook messages out. You've posted it to social media. You've probably sent them a physical mailer. You've done everything you can to let them know that there's a client event happening. You don't need to cram it down their throat, right? But what you do need to do is go deeper with your relationship. So unless they bring up real estate, I don't ever bring it up. And by the way, do they ever bring up real estate? Every single time. They always bring up real estate. And when they do, you can verbally vomit real estate all over them. No problem, okay? But you got to let them bring it up. All right. Now, the worst thing you can do on this call, please do not make this mistake. The worst thing that you can do on this call is have a great conversation with them. And then at the very end of the call, you say something stupid like, oh, by the way, if you were thinking of buying or selling a home or had a friend or family member who was, do you have a realtor you'd refer them to? Listen, I don't care how great your cheesy Irish accent is. That is the absolute worst, most self-serving script on planet Earth. And I probably shouldn't have shared that with you because and I won't tell you who, I won't tell you which coach because I don't want to get Brian Buffini mad at me again. But there's coaches out there still teaching this thing today. Guys, if you called me up, and you haven't talked to me for a while, and you have a great conversation with me, and then you hit me with that script at the end, what am I actually thinking to myself? Oh, the real reason you called wasn't because you care about me. It's because you want something from me, right? All right. And Justin asks, well, what do you say on a voicemail? Well, on a voicemail, just say, I'd say, hey, Justin, it's Michael Hellickson. I haven't talked to you in a while. I just wanted to give you a call and catch up. Give me a shout. Here's my number. That's it. Remember, they want to be your friend more than they want to be your client, right? But you got to earn their trust, okay? All right, now that's the calls I make 3 weeks before the event. Then so that's 4 days per year. Then there's the event itself. That's another 4 days per year. And then the week after the event, what do? I call every person in my sphere of influence again. And what's the conversation I'm going to have with them? Very simple. If they came to the event, I'm going to say, man, I'm so glad you came to the event. It was really great to see you. Hey, Justin, I'm so sorry we didn't get a chance to spend more time together. Let's make it a point at the next one to spend more time together. Won't that be great? And he's going to say, yeah, fantastic. That'd be great. Fantastic. That's it. And by the way, it's day, date, time, and location, right? Super stress-free. It's really low key. Okay. Now, for the people that did not make it to the event, a lot of people feel like they should induce FOMO or fear of missing out, right? I don't believe that. I don't believe that you need to do that. Instead, what I think you should do is just call and make sure you convey the following. Write this down. I'm going to give you the script. It's very simple. When I'm calling the day after my client event to the people that did not make it to the client event, all I want to convey is, I just wanted you to know I was thinking about you. I just wanted you to know I was thinking about you. That's it. That's all you've got to say. All right. Can you tell I teach this all the time? I love it. All right. So that was transparent, wasn't it? That was vulnerable. All right. So here we go. That said, if all you can do is those 3 things, that's 12 days per year, and you're going to take your numbers to 20%. Now, you need to do this for about 2 years, okay? For 2 years, if you'll do this consistently over a 2-year period, by the end of that 2 years, you should be hitting about 20% of your database in transactions, either by referral or as a direct transaction from that sphere of influence, okay? Great stuff. All right, now, some of you wanted, in fact, most of you typed in that you wanted those lead sources. So I'm going to give you a list really quick of 17 of my favorite lead sources. In fact, if you will do what I'm about to ask you right now, I'm going to have you send me a text message. And if you will do it right now while we're on the webinar, then here's what I'll do. I won't just give you 17 of my favorite lead sources. I'll give you 31. Okay. So here's what you got to do. Okay. Let's get rid of this. I want you to send a message to 727-287-5993. You're going to send the words Club Wealth. That's 2 words. Send the words Club Wealth to 727-287-5993. Camille, if you want to put this in the comments, both in the webinar and both in Zoom and on Facebook for me, that'd be great. Send the words Club Wealth, 2 words, capital C, capital W. Send that right now to 727-287-5993. A couple of things I'm going to do. Number 1, I'm going to give you my list of 31 of my favorite lead sources. Okay. Number 2, I'm also going to give you a free trial to a product that I'm a huge believer in. It's called Prospect Boss. I'm going to give you a 14-day free trial to it. Why? One of the things you do not want to do is you do not want to be making cold calls, FSBOs, expireds, and other lead generation type calls from your cell phone. Because if you do that from your cell phone, what's going to happen is you're going to get marked as spam likely. And it means that it's going to be harder for you to get people to pick up the phone when you call them. Okay. So I use a product called Prospect Boss, and they've agreed to, so for anybody that texts that number, they've agreed to give you a 14-day free trial of their service. And what their service does is, number 1, it ensures that you're not showing up as spam likely. Number 2, if you're getting ghosted, now a lot of people don't know what ghosting is, but ghosting is very straightforward. And what it means is you think the number's ringing, like you call somebody and on your end, it sounds like it's ringing, but on their end, it's not actually ringing. That's getting ghosted. All right. And so now what you want to do is you need to have a service like Prospect Boss that ensures that you're not getting ghosted. And they have a system that does this Prospect Boss, Sonia. Thank you for that question. And so you'll get that. They're gonna. I think they send you an email when you opt in for that number. Pretty sure they send you an email. I could be wrong. I don't know how they get you the information, but I know they get it to you. But anyway, take advantage of the free trial, and it'll help you both to not show up as spam likely, and it'll also help you to not get ghosted. The other thing it does is it's a dialer software, so it'll allow you to call multiple people at the same time. Now, that being said, I'm gonna warn you that you need to be on. We're going to be doing a webinar here soon about the new TCPA guidelines, and I want you to understand that you need to be on that webinar. If you're going to use any kind of a dialer, I want you to be on that webinar so that you can understand what those ramifications potentially could look like if you're using dialer software. It's fine to use. Well, I'll go deeper on that in that TCPA. If you guys want the link for that TCPA webinar, the TCPA is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and it's regulated by the FCC. They've made some changes recently that take effect January 27th. It's a big deal. You need to understand it. We're going to do a webinar on that. If you want the link for that webinar, type in TCPA into the chat right now, and I'll make sure you get the link to that. All right. Now, Carlos, you're asking Vulcan 7 versus Prospect Boss versus Espresso Agent. Which do you recommend? Entirely different things. Prospect Boss is more specific to dialing, right? That's TCPA, by the way, guys. T as in Tom, CPA. TPC, Telephone Consumer, TCPA. Thank you. All right. Anyway, that being said, Vulcan 7 and Espresso Agent are very, very similar. The UIs are a little bit different. They both get their data from the same sources. Another one that we really like is the RedX, also a great product. Again, they're all getting data from predominantly the same sources. Each has different advantages over the other. That's a longer conversation for a different day. I would suggest that if you're going to get any of them, reach out to us because we have discount codes for each one of them. Anything you're going to buy in real estate, check with us first. We can get you a discount on pretty much everything. All right. And definitely on all the FSBO and expired dialer softwares that are out there. And the real advantage of the softwares isn't just the dialer aspect of them. The real advantage to them is that they're going in and they're making sure that you're not calling people that are already relisted, right? So it's pulling up all the FSBOs and expireds in your area, making sure they're not on the DNC list, and making sure that they're not already relisted. So it makes your calling time much more effective. Okay. All right. Great stuff. And I will make sure we get you all those people that have typed in TCPA. I promise you, I will make sure we get you guys all that link. What I'm going to do is I'm going to private message it to you. Now, I want you guys to understand this. I'm going to private message these links to you because Facebook hates links. When we post links in the chat, it actually nerfs the algorithm. It hurts us in the algorithm. So I'm going to be sending them to you via private message. When you receive that, it's probably going to go into your filtered messages. So you'll need to go check your filtered messages later tonight and make sure that we didn't get spammed out into your filtered messages. Now, the other thing I'm going to ask you is because I'm going to reply to each one of your comments and I'm going to say, did you receive it? It would be a huge favor to me if you would just reply in the comments in Facebook to say, yes, I received it. At which point that does two things. One, it lets me know you got it. And two, it'll really help us in the algorithm in Facebook and it'll help more people see this great information. And I'd super appreciate that. So thank you. All right. Now we got to move on. I got lots more to cover. We've talked about lead generation at length. I do want to give you one lead source that I really love. That's super affordable. It's probably the only paid lead source that I would recommend for tier 1 and early tier 2. And that is leadsLikeCandy.com. 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 Okay. Great product. I can tell you that I very consistently for years and years and years was listing, around 8 houses a month from that one lead source. My best month ever, I think I listed, don't quote me on the number. The number that comes to memory, you won't even believe the number, but the number that comes to my memory, and this would have been 15 years ago, same lead source 15 years ago, was like 30 homes in 1 month from that one lead source. My son, Austin, and a lot of our coaches and a lot of our clients, in fact, I would venture to guess that probably 98% or more of our coaches are using Leads Like Candy. And I would suggest that a lot of our coaching clients are using it. It's a great lead source. It's super affordable, great leads. And they are also compliant with the new TCPA rules, which is very important. All right. That said, let's talk about lead follow-up. Because as much as you guys think you have a lead generation problem, the key is lead follow-up. Write this down. The fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Before we do, there was a question about some other client event ideas. There's actually Facebook groups devoted to client events. So you can look that up there. I would suggest the best one that we've ever had and we see this all across the country, the best attended client events are always Easter egg hunts. And guess what's right around the corner? Easter egg hunts are fantastic. They're also an event that can actually pay you. And if we have time, type in Easter into the chat. If we have time at the end, I'll be happy to go back in and go deeper on the Easter egg hunts and how to get a ton of value out of them and how to actually profit from them before you ever sell a house. And Petra, yes, that is correct. It is the same. The difference is that when you go through leadslikecandy.com, you get our discount on that lead source, and you get our rep there. Her name is Eva Langley. And when she knows you're with us, she'll take extra special care of you and make sure that you're getting the very best deal they offer to anybody ever, anywhere. And by the way, that's the case with all of our vendors. We make sure that our clients or our people that we're sending there through our links are getting the very best deals they offer anywhere. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about lead follow-up. There's 2 keys to lead follow-up. Write these down. Number 1 is speed to lead. Okay, you got to get to them fast. Now, it used to be people thought, oh, if I get to them within the first 10 minutes, I'm okay. No. You literally have to get to that lead in the first 30 seconds. Watch this. Number 1 team in the country in 2021, I think it was the Robert Slack team in Florida. I want to say it was 20, might have been 22. But anyway, they did 6,600 transactions that year. And their speed to lead that year was 16 seconds. What? Yeah, that's a lot. So here's the thing. If you're a solo agent, and it's tough, right? I mean, watch this. Type this in. If you are a solo agent, I want to know who I'm talking to again. If you're a solo agent, type in solo in the chat. If you are on a team or building a team, type in team on the chat. Okay. I want to know how many of you are solo, how many of you are either on a team or building a team. Okay. That's going to really help me out. So that being said, yes, we got them coming in now. Okay, let's see what this is. Solo or team? Are you guys solo or team? Solo. Oh, a lot of solo. Okay, hold on. Look at this. A lot of solo. Okay. All right. This is what an aneurysm looks like. Just joking. All right. Well, why am I saying that? I'm telling you guys right now, you can be a solo agent, but it's so much harder than being on a team, right? And I don't care if you're the team leader or a team member, it is magnitudes easier to make money in this business as a part of a team than it is to do it alone. And it's getting more so every day. So I'm going to recommend that those of you that are solo agents, by the way, we coach solo agents, and I have lots of clients that are solo agents that have a great life, make a ton of money, and they're very, very happy in just being a solo agent. Awesome. Cool. And we'll help you maximize that. That's great. That being said, it's just a lot easier and a lot more fun and a lot faster to get to money if you're either building a team or on a team. The fastest way is to be on a team. Building a team, the first couple of years building a team kind of sucks, right? It's hard, right? Tier 1, let's just give you an example. Tier 1 is really tough because it's all you all the time. There's nobody helping you. You got to figure it all out. And you're always just trying to figure out, how do I pay my bills next month, right? It's really hard. It's a grind in Tier 1. So you got to really work hard to get into Tier 2. Then when you get into Tier 2, it's also really hard. In fact, the only thing that sucks worse than being in Tier 1 is being in Tier 2. And here's why. Because in Tier 2, most people, that's when they start to build a team. And so now not only do you have to do your own production, but now you've got to do lead sources and lead, follow up, and you got to put systems and processes and tools and people and support and all this stuff and technology in place so that your team can be successful. All of that costs money, right? Now, that also takes a lot of your time at a time when you need to be out doing production. So your production actually comes down, your expenses go up, and it takes 6 to 12 months before your team even starts to be productive. So it's a lot more difficult in Tier 2 than it is in Tier 1. Okay. That being said, if you're going to be in Tier 1, if you're going to be a solo agent, I'm still going to recommend that you at least get an assistant. A solo agent with an assistant can easily get into upper Tier 2 and even into early Tier 3 and still have a life. Okay. In fact, I want you guys to write down our core value at Club Wealth. Ready for this? Write this down. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. Write that down. That's a very big deal. Okay. We'll teach you how to make millions of dollars, but I want to make sure you don't screw up your family in the process. Now, don't get me wrong. Stuff happens. Some things are unavoidable. I'm not saying that everybody's going to have the perfect family life, but I'm telling you right now, we are not going to teach you things that are going to make it more difficult for you to have the kind of personal life you want to have. Okay. We're going to teach you things that allow you to do both. All right. So follow up. I got to get with them within 30 seconds. Now, speed to lead is critical, but also it's very important that I'm tenacious about my follow up. So speed to lead and tenacity of follow up are the two keys. Now, let's talk about tenacity of follow up. What does that look like? There are 7 different ways I'm going to follow up with my leads. Okay. Write these down. 7 ways: phone, text, email, video text, video email. Phone, text, email, video text, video email. I'll give it to you one more time. Phone, text, email, video text, video email. Then number 6 is I want to use AI. Okay, artificial intelligence. Now, this is a big one. Now, you have to use it properly. And specifically, you got to make sure that your leads are when they opt into you, that whatever lead source they come from, they're opting in and they're specifically stating that it's okay to use AI to follow up with them. We'll talk about more about that on that TCPA webinar. Okay, it's very, very important. That said, if you're going to use AI, there's 2 AI products in real estate right now that I think are the absolute best. One is YLOPO, fantastic product. It's YLOPO, YLOPO. You go to clubwealth.com/YLOPO. You can get our deal on their stuff. I think they waive the enrollment fee. I'm not exactly sure what our deal is with them, but we get you a deal. But it's a great product. It's expensive. If you're in tier 1 or tier 2, it's not for you. Okay. Because it's like $3,500 a month to use it at scale and to use it properly. Okay. So if you're in tier 1 or tier 2, I'm going to recommend Black Hat, BLACKHAT, Black Hat. Okay. This is another AI product that is fantastic. Now, if you want more information about Black Hat, I want you just to type Black Hat into your chat. Basically what I'll do, and I'll have Sawyer, my son-in-law, actually runs that company. He owns that company. It's called Black Hat. And what they do is when you get a lead that comes in, the second that lead comes in, it's automatically text messaging that lead. The lead thinks that it's your assistant, and it's having conversation with that lead, and it's engaging them. And your job is to take over that conversation in the first 4 text messages. It's massive. This is a great product. You can get it for as little as, well, you can get it for $400 a month. Or if you're using Madison, my daughter, as one of your preferred lenders, doesn't even have to be your only one, but if she's one of your preferred lenders, then she will pay for half of it. Now it's only $197 a month for you. And by the way, it comes with the CRM Lofty. And if you're not in, it'll work with any CRM. You can bolt it on to any CRM you're already using. But if you either don't have a CRM or if it's time for you to change and upgrade to something like Lofty, which by the way is the best CRM out there right now, guess what? That it comes with Black Hat included at no extra cost. It's a very big deal. All right. And by the way, not only does it come with Lofty, but it comes with Lofty built out with all of the #1 listing agent in the country's, my son, his action plans, his campaigns, drip campaigns, stages, tagging, all that stuff is already built in for you. And that's the part that takes all the time, right? It's really hard to set that up in a CRM. Well, we're just going to give you all of that when you sign up for Black Hat. I say Sawyer's going to give you all that when you sign up for Black Hat. So if you want more information about Black Hat, type in Black Hat into the chat and I'll have him reach out to you. Now, all right, that being said, you need to have AI. Now, but again, you got to be using AI properly and in a manner that is consistent and compliant with these new TCPA laws. The final one, number 7, is I want you to Facebook stalk them. Now, this sounds weird, but I'm just listen, hear me out here, okay? I always like to tell people stalking used to be a 3 to 5 year sentence. Now it's a 6-figure income, right? Well, what do I really mean by this? What I really mean is that you're going to go into Facebook. You're having a hard time getting a hold of a lead. Then you're going to go into Facebook. You're going to find them on Facebook. You're going to find a conversation they're having with somebody on their page. You're going to hit reply to one of their comments on that. What that's going to do is it is going to tag them in that comment. And then in that comment, you're going to say, hey, I'll just use Gene as an example. Hey, Gene, it's Michael, I've been trying to get a hold of you. Give me a call. Here's my number. By the way, I sent you a direct message. It probably went into your filtered messages. So you may need to check your filtered messages. Guess what they're going to do? They're not going to call you. Okay, I can promise you that. They won't call. But what they will do is they'll go into their filtered messages. They'll find the message that you sent them. and then they'll respond there. But guess what happens when they open that message up? All of a sudden, Facebook thinks you know each other. Now, they don't think you're necessarily friends, but what it will do is Facebook's algorithm will serve up a little bit of your content to them. Not a lot, but a little. And that's important because people need to experience you in 7 to 10 different ways before, and sorry, I should say it's 7 to 10 different times, and ideally in multiple ways before they will even remember your name, let alone engage with you. This will give you several of those extra touches, okay? That's really, really important to the overall follow-up strategy, okay? All right, now, this is getting exciting, right? So when it comes to follow-up, the number one thing that I'm going to do, I get a lead that comes in, right? Whether it's an internet lead or wherever it comes, referral, doesn't matter where it comes from. When a lead comes in, what is the first thing I do? Type into your chat, into the comments right now, what's the first thing you should do the second the lead comes in, okay? Type it into your chat and hit enter, and I'll tell you what I think it is. What I think you should do, first thing, I think you should pick up the phone and call them. That's the very first thing you should do. Now, what happens during that call? Let's go through an actual scenario, okay? So I get a lead that comes in, I call them, they don't answer. What do? Do I leave them a voicemail? Do I send them a text message? No, okay? I'm literally going to hang up the phone and I'm going to dial again. That's called a double dial. Write that down. Double dial. Okay, this is very important. Now, I call them the second time. They don't pick up the phone. What do? Do I leave a voicemail? No. At this point, I'm going to send them a text message. And the text that I'm going to send them is very simple. It's 3 words. Is this whatever name they registered with? So if they registered with Susie, it's going to be, is this Susie? And they're going to respond back, yes, who is this? Or simply, who is this? The good news is I'm engaging with them all of a sudden, okay? That's a big deal. All right, now watch this. How many of you have kids? If you have kids, type in kids in the chat. I want to know how many people on this call have kids. Okay, and I'm seeing some of them are sending letters, some of them are calling them, some of them are hanging up. All right, good stuff. So right there, just type in, I want to know how many of you guys have kids. I always tell people, Tara and I never knew what true happiness really was until we had kids. And by then it was too late. Yeah, you parents know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just giving you a hard time. But watch this. We love them now that they're profitable. Is that bad? I'm just joking. That's terrible. All right, so watch this, though. If you have kids and you get a call from a phone number you don't recognize, you don't answer the phone, it goes to voicemail. They don't leave a voicemail. Then they call you right back. You don't answer the phone. They don't leave a voicemail. And then you get a text message from that number. Is this your first name? What are you thinking at this point? What's going through your head? One of my kids is either in jail or the hospital, depending on which kid it is, right? And so what's going to happen? You're going to respond back, yes, who is this? And then they're going to send you the 3 words. Write these 3 words down, guys. Here's the 3 magic words. Calling you now. Calling you now. What? What happens when you say that? All of a sudden, they're going to pick up the phone because it sounds like you're some cop or a paramedic or whatever, right? Now, here's the reality. Did we say anything about their kids? No. Are we misleading them in any way, shape, or form? No. We're just playing on human psyche, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you called them up. They didn't answer. You sent them a text message. Is this so-and-so? They said, yes, who is this? You said, I'm calling you now. Then they're going to pick up the phone and watch this. A whopping 83% of the time they will pick up the phone. That is such a big deal. Okay. By the way, on the double dial, here's another very interesting statistic. On the double dial, by calling them a second time, 35% of the people will pick up the phone in that second time. That is a very big, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but guys, you multiply this over all the time that you're going to be prospecting, it saves you hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours of prospecting every year. And that's time that you can be spending calling other people. This is a big deal. These numbers matter. Okay. All right. Now I get them on the phone. What's my goal when I get them on the phone? Okay. Type that in. I want to know, what's your goal when you get them on the phone? Is it to develop a relationship? Are you trying to build a relationship on trust with them? Are you trying to get them to do business with you? Are you trying to get an appointment? Like, what is your goal on this particular call? And I will tell you, here's my goal. Every single time, Carlos, you nailed it, brother. Every single time, it's get the appointment, get the appointment, get the appointment. That's it. That's the goal, okay? Oh, but Michael, what if they're not ready to do anything for another year? Who cares? I still want to meet with them. If they called on a house, let's go show them the house, right? The worst case scenario, I'm going to build a relationship with them when I'm face to face. And by the way, this is a face to face business, right? And they might have people to refer to me in between now and a year from now. And oh, by the way, if I've met them in person and I get a buyer agency agreement signed before I show them that house the first time, right? Guess what? Whether I'm enforcing my buyer agency agreement or not is not the point. That even if I don't choose to ever enforce one, they feel more connected to me because they signed one. And so guess what? They're even that much more likely to do business with me a year from now, okay? Very, very important. Now, who knows how to convert these leads better than real estate agents? What industry is better at lead conversion than real estate? Let's talk about this because we want to convert them to an appointment, right? But who knows more about this than real estate agents? I'll tell you who it is. Every one of you knows one of these. There's probably one or two listening to our call right now. I guarantee everybody on the call knows one of these. It's your drug dealer. What? Okay, relax. First of all, I'm a Mormon kid. I don't even drink coffee, let alone do drugs. All right. I don't even like taking the hard stuff they give you when you go to get a surgery or something like that. Instead, I just take a Tylenol or an ibuprofen. So here's the deal. Why am I saying drug dealers? Because drug dealers know something about lead conversion that real estate agents don't. And here's what it is. Write this down. First one's free, then you got to pay. First one's free, then you got to pay. Now, I want you to let that sink in for a second. You got to give them a taste of the product. What is your product? You are the product. It's not the house. It's not the service. It's you. How do they taste the product? By getting face to face with them. It's very, very important that you get face to face with them so they get to know you. That's the easiest way to build a relationship on trust. Watch this. If you find, I think this will be interesting in the comments. If you sell better in person than over the phone, whichever it is, if you sell better in person, I want you to type in person. If you sell better over the phone, I want you to type in over the phone. And let's see what you guys all type in. I'll bet that virtually every single one of you is going to type in that you sell better in person than you do over the phone. I know I do. And I think most people, if we're being truthful with ourselves, most people do. All right. So watch this. So I got to get face to face with them. Now, what if I want to make sure before, I don't want to waste time, right? I don't want to go out there and show up and they can't qualify for the house, right? I want to make sure they get pre-qualified before I show them a house, right? No, that's the problem that most agents have. Most agents are trying to get them to get pre-qualified first, and they're making the stipulation. They'll even say things like, well, before I can show you the house, the seller requires that we get everybody pre-qualified, blah, 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 blah. And they say, well, I'm going to pay cash. Oh, well, then we need to see proof of funds. Well, hold on. So I'm talking to you for the first time ever, and you want me to show you my bank account? First of all, if I can afford to pay cash for that house, I'm the kind of person that no way I'm going to show you my bank account. Like, I'm not interested. Like, you're crazy. Like, out of your mind. And so that being said, what we're doing is we're throwing up these roadblocks. And look at that. Everybody said in person. Look at you guys. I love it. Good for you. And so thank you for that, you guys. But check this out. I want to make sure that they talk to my lender, but I can never make it a requirement. I have to get them to want to talk to my lender, okay? So here's what I want you to do. Once you set the appointment, always set the appointment first. And while I'm still on the phone with them, once I've set the appointment, I'm going to use the following script. And this script is going to get them to want to talk to my lender. And it's going to be low key, low pressure, okay? Write this down. If they could save you $10,000 to $20,000 on your mortgage, if they could save you $10,000 to $20,000 on your mortgage, if they could save you $10,000 to $20,000 on your mortgage, would you be interested in chatting with one of our lenders? I'll give it to you again. If they could save you $10,000 to $20,000 on your mortgage, would you be interested in chatting with one of our lenders? First of all, watch this. Who says no to that? Nobody. Everybody says yes. And when they do, you have some options. How am I going to connect them with my lender? A lot of people are going to say, okay, well, here's my lender's number. Give them a call. Don't do that, okay? Nobody's going to call your lender. It's never going to happen. Then others will say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to give my lender their number. You know what? The only people that suck worse at lead follow-up than real estate agents is your freaking lenders. And you think I'm wrong? Believe me, I'm right about this. Dude, lenders are horrible at follow-up. Now, I'll tell you this, Madison's not, and there are some lenders out there that are great at follow-up. Madison's in her office because she works the whole country. She works every state except for New York and Massachusetts. So she's in the office from 6 a.m. till noon every day making follow-up calls. Guys, you need to be able to get a hold of your lender, but what if you can't? What if you go to call your lender and you're trying to three-way call them in and they don't answer the phone? And by the way, that's the right way to do it. You want to three-way call the lender in immediately. But what if they don't answer the phone? That's a problem, right? It makes you look like an idiot, right? What you need, and this is another reason why you need to have multiple lenders, what you need to do is you need to have a number that when you call that number, it will broadcast that call to every lender you work with. First one to answer is now live with you and the client. That's world class. That's fantastic. And by the way, if you're using Lofty CRM, it already has that feature built in. You don't even have to pay extra for it. It's there, done. Now, if you don't have Lofty and you don't plan on using Lofty, now if you're using Black Hat with Lofty, then guess what? That feature's there. I think you're going to pay a few bucks a month for that feature. I could be wrong about that. But long story short, it's built right into that software. If you don't have Lofty or you don't have Black Hat, then you can go get a product called Callingly. Write this down, Callingly. You can go to our website, go to clubwealth.com/Callingly, and we get a discount on that product. And what that product will do is like $50 a month, and it will do that call broadcast for you. So now, day or night, you're able to get a lender who knows what they're talking about on the phone with your client. And by the way, the lender that's going to pick up is going to be whoever's hungriest. And that's exactly who you want talking to your clients, is the hungry lender that's going to really work for it. And so now you've got them on the phone. You let them chit chat for a minute, exchange contact information. You hang up, they call each other back, game over. Dude, you're off to the races. Now, if your lender calls you up subsequent to that conversation, and this might happen, it does happen, they might call you up, and let's say Madison calls you up and says, I'll use Doug. Doug, I see you commented in here, so I'm going to say, Doug, hey, it's Tara, and I just want to give you a heads up that Susie is not really ready to buy yet. I should be able to get her qualified here in the next 6 months, but just want to give you a heads up, right? So you have two choices at this point. You can still meet them for the appointment, or you can choose not to meet them for the appointment. Which would you do? Would you meet them? Yes or no? If you would meet them, type in yes. If the answer is, if you would not meet them, type in no. I'm curious. Now, my belief is, I feel that in the numbers support that you should meet them anyway. Now, here's the deal. I don't necessarily want to go meet them at the house. Instead, what I want to do is I want to give them an option. Okay. So it's called an alternative choice closed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them up and I'm going to say, hey, Susie, it's Michael, or it's Doug in this case, right? If I'm using Doug as my example. Hey, Susie, it's Doug. Just want to let you know, I just got off the phone with Madison. She says you're not quite ready to make the move yet. And what that does, it's not a problem. It just means we got two options at this point, actually three options at this point. We could just not meet, which is fine. But honestly, I don't think that's going to help. I don't think that's going to get you where you're going to go. Alternatively, we can still keep our appointment, go meet at the house, so you can see what you'd be getting when the time is right. So you can kind of get a feel for the marketplace, start getting an idea of what's out there. I think that's very, very important, so that when the time comes, it's easier for you to make that transition. Or rather than meeting at the house, we can meet at my office. And at my office, I can show you all the information on that house, all the photos. I can show you a bunch of other houses. I can show you stuff that's on the market and even stuff that's off the market. And I can show you the game plan. I can walk you through kind of the game plan and help you develop a personalized game plan for how you can be in a position to buy sooner and how you can save money in the process. And all that gets done in a short meeting at my office. So it's up to you. Would you rather meet at the house, or would you rather meet at my office? And guess what they say every time? Oh, I'd rather meet at the office. Perfect. Because now you don't have a no-show happen when you have to drive somewhere. If for any reason whatsoever, and by the way, about 40% of your appointments are going to no-show. That's just stats, right? Not your referral-based ones, right? But all of your other lead sources, you're going to have about a 40% no-show rate. That's just reality. So here's the deal. If they're going to no-show on me, I'd rather have them do it when I'm at my office so I can actually get some freaking work done, right? And so my preference is to always guide them in that direction, that they meet at the office. We do a buyer presentation. We get a buyer agency agreement signed. Game over. Okay. All right. Now that's huge. All right. And Jorge asks, Michael, what do you like better, Lofty versus Sierra? It's interesting you bring up Sierra. I think Sierra is a solid number 2. I like Lofty better, and by a pretty wide margin. Now, that being said, if you have Sierra now, I do not think you should switch CRMs. Okay, if you're already using it at a high level, you've already built out your game plan, your action plans, and all that stuff, your stages, all that. I don't think you should. Switching CRMs is a lot of work. Okay, it's a distraction that takes you away from your business. So I would not recommend a switch if you're already using your CRM. If it's Sierra, or even if Lofty's number one, Sierra's number two. That being said, if you're not already using one of those two and you're considering one of those two, I would go with Lofty 100%. So great question. All right. Any other questions before we keep going forward? This is great. I love your questions, by the way. I teach this all the time. The more questions you guys give me, the better, because it's more interesting for me, and I enjoy it. So, all right. So lead conversion is mission critical. Now, I want to give you a couple of scripts to use, and then I'm going to talk to you about the difference between listing and, working with listings and working with buyers. Okay. This is very, very important, and how to get more of specifically listings. So, first and foremost, when you're following up with people, I gave you that script earlier. Remember, I kind of blurted it out there and I gave you the wrong script at one point in time. So anyway, I'm giving you the correct one now. The lead follow-up script is, I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on my end. So instead of calling people up and saying, are you ready to buy yet? Are you ready to sell yet? Use that script. I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on my end. It works magic. The response is almost always the same. It's almost always, oh, no, it's not you. It's us. We're really glad you followed up. It's kind of like that girl in high school, right, guys? Oh, it's not you. It's me. Dude, I got news for you. She says it's not you. It's me. Bro, it's you. Okay. Trust me. I've been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. All right. That being said, let's move forward to the lead conversion scripts. There are 2 lead conversion scripts that I want you to memorize. I already gave you another one, a third one, which is that lender script. But the lead conversion scripts I want you to think about are when I'm on a buyer appointment. So I've just shown a house. What script do I use to get them to want to write an offer? This is important, okay? Most people don't have a script that they use for this. Most people are just winging it and hoping they can get them to do it when they're out there. No, this should be the same thing every single time. Every single time you show a house, I want you to ask the following question. Super easy, okay? At what price would this be a great deal for you? At what price would this be a great deal for you? At what price would this be a great deal for you? That's it. That's all you got to ask. And here's the deal. If you're showing them a $400,000 house and they come back and they say, oh, well, we want to pay $200,000 for it. What do? Do you write it up or not? If you would write it up anyway, say write it. If you would not write it up, type in no. I want to see how many of you would write it up and how many of you would not write it up. I love this interaction, by the way. You guys have been really helpful. Seriously, this has been a great audience today, and I'm seeing a lot of the same names being very engaged. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate that. So if you would write it up anyway, write it in the comments. And if you would not write it up, write no in the comments. So David Allen Cook says, I would write it. Good, David. I like that. Leslie says she'd write it. Good. Sherry's going to write it. All right, good. I would write it too. Okay, I'm seeing everybody so far is saying they would write it. And that is my belief is the correct answer. And here's the deal. Here's why. I have to show them that I'm on their side. And I'm not going to give them a pushback, right? What I don't want to do is I don't want to say, well, they're not going to accept that. Or, oh, things are selling for $400,000. So writing up for $200,000, we're just wasting our time. Dude, you say that to a client, here's their response. Hey man, if you don't feel like like I'm worth you wasting a little bit of time on and going to bat for me, then I'll just go find somebody else who will, right? So it's really, really important. Write this down. Be on your client's side, okay? Very important. Now, are they going to get it at 200? Probably not. Will I explain what's going on in the marketplace to them? Will I educate them on the market? Absolutely. And I will always also say, regardless of what the market's doing, I want you to know I am on your side. My job is to get you the best deal possible. You want to write it up for 200? We'll write it up for 200, and I will go fight tooth and nail to get it for you for $200,000. That being said, it's my job to share with you what's going on in the marketplace. So let me pull up all the comps. I'm going to show you the comps, blah, 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 blah. You get the point, right? All right. Now, on a listing appointment, okay, this is very important. On a listing appointment, I'm going to ask the following question at the end of every listing appointment to get them to go to contract, to sign the contract, okay? Look at my eyes. Everybody needs to look at the screen right now. Look me in the face right now. Okay, so I'm going to look them square in the eye after I've gone through my whole presentation. I've gone through my checklist. And I'm going to say, are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? Are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? Guess what they're going to say? No. Fantastic. Sign here. Now, I'll tell you this. Occasionally you'll get some objections, and I'll share the objections when we get to the end. I'm going to show you how to do a listing presentation in a minute here. And when we get to the end of that, I'll show you how to resolve the most common objections that we get on listing appointments. Before I do, watch this. I'm going to share something with you that I haven't shared with you yet that's massive. If your average sales price, let's use $400,000. If I've got an average sales price of $400,000, and you guys aren't allowed to talk commissions amongst yourselves, but I can, because guess what? I'm not a real estate agent today. And so here we go, 400,000 times 2.5%. Most agents across the country are probably earning around 2.5%, or what is that, $10,000. Okay, now I will tell you this. I'm going to show you how to make $20,000 on that same transaction and have your clients freaking love you. If you would like to learn how to do that, put a $sign in the comments right now. If you want to learn how to make $20,000 instead of $10,000 and have your clients love you for it, then type in a $sign in the comments, and I will talk about that. That's going to be the last thing I share. I got to get at least 20 of you to type a $sign in there if I'm going to share that, because this thing's big, and I'll promise you this. It's one of those things you just can't unsee. Once you see it, it's like seeing grandma naked for the first time. Like, you can't unsee that. Weird, right? I can't remember why that came to my mind. I never said that. Forget I said that. Let's move on. I'm just kidding. All right. So that being said, what I need to know is, would you rather work with buyers or sellers? And before you answer that question, oh, look at this. I'm getting lots of $signs. We're almost at 20. So sure, Camille, I need you to count those up and make sure that I've got at least 20 in the comments there so that I can share that at the end. All right, watch this, guys. The Zillow just did a study that finally, after decades of me teaching this, finally there's been a study done by Zillow, major company, $1 billion company, like I'm assuming, and here they are, have done a study that backs up what I've been telling people for decades, which is what? Will you make more money as a generalist or a specialist? And let me ask it this way. Who makes more money, general practice doctors or specialists? What do you think? Who makes more, general practice doctors or specialists? And I'll tell you, it's the specialists, right? But what are you guys? How many of you work with buyers? If you work with buyers, type in buyers. If you work with sellers, type in sellers. If you work with both, type in both. Okay? What do you work with, buyers, sellers, or both? Type that in. Buyers, sellers, or both. Okay, I'm seeing, I want to see, I'm trying to wait for these comments to come in. Buyers, sellers, or both? Which ones do you guys work with? Carlos says both. Yvette says both. Jeremy says both. Okay, watch this. Everybody so far is saying both. Oh, Jeremy says, now he's saying buyers. No, not both. Now it's buyers. Okay, I'm seeing both. Okay, guys, watch this. If you work with both buyers and sellers, what are you? Are you a generalist or a specialist? And the answer is, you're a generalist. And the specialists make the most money. And that's the report that Zillow just came out with, shows that, in fact, the data supports what I've been saying. In fact, they said that specialists make 25% more than generalists. 25% more. That's pretty substantial. So for every $100,000 you make, you're going to make an extra $25,000 by working with just buyers or sellers if you're focused on just that one thing. So how do you know which one to work with? And by the way, it didn't matter in the study. It didn't matter if it was working with buyers or it was working with sellers, as long as you were specializing in one or the other. Okay. Now, that's hard if you're a solo agent, right? If I'm a solo agent, I kind of got to work with both, right? Because I don't have a team member that I can refer to the other two, right? And so it's very important that we find a team to work with, or we build a team so that we can get specialized in what we do. I'll give you a great example. My son, Austin, right? 150 listings this year. He doesn't get to 150 listings if he's working with buyers at the same time, right? It's very difficult to do. I know people that have done 250 buyer transactions a year that only work with buyers. And they have, by the way, showing assistants that work for them, and they have other assistants to work for them to make their time more efficient. But they're able to do 200 to 250 transactions a year working with buyers, and they make way more money than other people do because they're specialized, okay? So I'm going to help you determine which one you should work with in a quick 30-second test. Okay. So I want you all to close your eyes. Okay. Don't worry. You're at home. It's not going to be weird. Nobody's going to see you. Okay. Close your eyes. I'm going to describe two different personality types, okay? Two different personality types. And I want you to tell me which personality type, A or B, best describes you, okay? So, personality type number one, I'm going to nurture them. I'm going to guide them. I'm going to educate them every step of the way. I'm going to make sure they have a world-class customer experience throughout this entire process. If that describes you, type in A in the comments. Okay? That's an A personality. So type A in the comments if that personality type represents you. Personality type B. Okay? Personality type B. I'm going to walk up to that front door. I'm going to kick it down. I'm going to punch him in the face. I'm going to make him sign. And then I'm going to hand it off to somebody else who's going to deal with the carnage after I've gone. If that describes you, type in B into the chat, into the comments. Now, those are two very different types of personalities, right? Are you type A or are you type B? Okay. Here's the reality. If you are type A, you are probably better suited to being a buyer agent. If you are type B, you are probably best suited to being a listing agent. Now, as I say that, there's always exceptions to every rule. And I will further say that even though I'm saying that, I'm guessing all of you probably want to work with sellers anyway, or probably going to continue to work with sellers anyway, at least for the conceivable future. So I'm going to teach you now how to do a listing appointment properly. Now, I will tell you that regardless of the lead source, and guys, I've literally been on over 10,000 listing appointments. Let that number sink in. That's an insane number. It's a massive, bold claim. I get it. But I've been over 10,000 listing appointments, probably more than anybody in the country. I'm not aware of anybody on the planet that's been on that many listing appointments besides me. That being said, I've learned a few things on these appointments. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I learned on these appointments is that they only care about three things, and we are not one of them. What are the three things that sellers care about? Okay, if you know, chat and type it in. But I'll tell you, the three things that I learned that sellers care about most is who's going to give me the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache to me. I'll give it to you again. Who's going to give me the most money in the least time with the least amount of headache to me? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to get 93% of every seller you go on an appointment with to list their house with you. If they list it with anybody, they're 93% of them are going to list with you. Okay. That was my statistic, by the way. And since then, I actually have someone who has beaten my record. One of our coaching clients, she actually also happens to be one of our coaches. Her name is Liz McDonald. Now, Liz hit 94.25% conversion rate on her listing appointments. She's going to be teaching at our listing agent bootcamp coming up in April, which, by the way, you need to be at. If you don't have your ticket already, go to clubwealth.com/LABC. And if Camille, if you could type that into the comments, it's clubwealth.com/LABC. You need to be at that event. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. I'll tell you more about it later. But I'll tell you right now, like if you want to list more houses in 2025, you need to be at that event. There will be a ton of people there that are consistently listing over 100 transactions a year. In fact, 3 of the top 5 listing agents on planet Earth that I'm aware of are going to be at that event, and they're all teaching at that event. And actually, I'm sorry, 4 out of the 5 are going to be at the event, and all 4 of them are teaching classes at the event. All right, that being said, first and foremost, when it comes to getting the listing, oh, look at that. Jeremy's like, already got my ticket. Freaking love it, Jeremy. That's awesome, man. I'm glad you're coming. You're going to love it. And so watch this, guys. I want you to understand, first and foremost, you have to dress properly for the appointment. Your attire should strengthen your message. Write that down. My attire should strengthen my message. This is mission critical to getting the listing, okay? If you dress like a slob, your chance of getting a listing diminished greatly. And a lot of people say, oh, but Michael, I dress to my clients. Well, that's stupid, right? Don't do that. What you need to do is you need to dress better than your clients. Give you an example. If you're out working with buyers and I look across the street and I see you showing houses to your buyers, but I can't tell who the agent is, you got a problem, okay? You should always be dressed better than your client, okay? Now, for agents, for guys, I would recommend you wear a tie, okay? I've split tested this a ton of times, and I can tell you that I convert more more listing appointments to an actual listing when I wear a tie than when I don't wear a tie. I've had other people split test this across the country, and they've come up with the exact same conclusion. On a listing appointment, I highly recommend a tie. Now, can you get away with what I'm wearing today, right? With a button-up shirt and a jacket? Sure, you can get away with that. But I think that especially as long as you're in tier 1 or tier 2, I would recommend wearing the tie so that you can get to that point because I think you will get more. In fact, I know you will get more listings wearing that tie than you will without. Now, ladies, here's the attire critique for you. Okay. And if you're from San Diego or Miami, please don't be angry with me. Okay. But I'm just telling you, and I don't know if anybody on the call is, I'm just saying when I teach this in San Diego and Miami, I always get ladies mad at me. But here's the key, ladies. Let's remember when it comes to our attire, what we are and are not selling. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. So enough said, right? We just need to make sure that, our attire strengthens our message. Okay. Now, on the way to the appointment, it's very important that I come prepared for the appointment. First and foremost, guys, I'm guessing a lot of you, and type this in, are you guys using electronic signatures for your, that's funny, guy. I'm not even going to comment on that. That's so funny, though. All right. So do you guys use electronic signatures on your listing appointments? Type in electronic if you do. Now, I will tell you this. I don't recommend electronic signatures for your listing appointments. Here's why. I've got $10,000 to $20,000 on the line. I stand to make somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 with each and every listing appointment I go to, right? Now, am I really going to risk that because I walk in and I accidentally drop my iPad on the way in? Or do I, what if the battery dies, or what if the operating system crashes, or heaven forbid, they don't have internet when I get there? There's a million things that can go wrong. They're going to cost me between $10,000 and $20,000 because I got news for you. If you don't get it on that first appointment, you're not getting it. It's not happening. You got to get the listing on the first appointment, right? And so I want to stack all the odds in my favor. So I do everything on paper on my listing appointments. Now, a buyer appointment, e-signature's fine, no big deal, right? That's a whole different ballgame. But on a listing appointment, it's all paper. I have every stitch of paper I could ever possibly need to get signed to be able to go out and list somebody's house, okay? Now, that's very important. Hard copy look at this. Jeremy's been paying attention. I love you, Jeremy, man. That's freaking awesome, man. Hard copy, 4 blue ink pens, 1 red ink pen. Why do I do that? Let's talk about this really quick, all right? Look at this. I'll even show you. So let's just grab 4 blue ink pens right there and 1 red. I don't have a little red ink pen on my desk, but look at that. 4 blue ink pens, 1 red one. That's 1 for me, 1 for Mr. Seller, 1 for Mrs. Seller, and a spare in case we run out of ink. Very important, all right? Now, what about the red? And by the way, let's back up. That saves me 8 minutes on every appointment. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but 8 minutes is a lot. If I go on 10 appointments a week, that's 80 minutes a week that I've saved. If I use that 80 minutes to make phone calls instead of sitting there waiting for signatures to happen, guess what? That's an hour and 20 minutes of extra phone calls per week. In an hour and 20 minutes, I can set 1 extra appointment. If I suck at this, that's 4 appointments per month. If I suck at this, I'm going to list 2 of them. And if I suck at selling them, I'm going to sell 1 of them. That's an extra $10,000 to $20,000 a month. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Think about that level of efficiency. Guys, the problem isn't that you're not working enough hours. The problem is that you're not working smart enough with the hours that you're working. Okay, let me help you do that. Let me get you in the right systems. Watch this. Guys, I'm not the best salesperson in the world. I'm sure most of you, anybody that on this call, Jeremy, you know me fairly well. Like anybody in this call that knows me knows I'm not the best salesperson in the world. But I was the #1 real estate agent on the planet for most of my career. Why? Because I figured out what worked, I put systems to it, and I did it over and over and over again. I was very, very deliberate and very disciplined about my day every single day. And so I made more money than everybody else did. And that you can too. It's not hard. You just need to stop doing the stuff that doesn't work and only do the things that do work. All right, now, I go out there, I got my forms. It's the first 30 seconds that matters most, okay? Because they're going to decide in the first 30 seconds who they're going to list with. And by the way, you have the rest of the appointment to completely screw it up. So when I get to that appointment, the very first thing I do is I walk straight up to them. I've got my packet with my agreements at my side. I've also got my key box. You need to take the key box with you to the appointment. You need to take it in with you when you go into the appointment. This is very, very important, all right? If you're not confident enough that you're going to get the listing to take that key box in with you when you first walk in, you have no business being on that listing appointment. Okay, let me tell you this. The #1 rule in getting more listings is being confident, all right? I cannot say that enough times. Confidence wins listings, all right? Now, that said, When I walk up to the front door, I got to nail that first 30 seconds. So here's exactly what I do in the first 30 seconds. I knock on the door really loud. Then I ring the doorbell. Now, I've already taken a picture of the front of the house before I even got to the door, okay? And I've already psyched myself up. I'm in the right state of mind. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm going to get this listing. I'm going to get it at my price for the term I want, the commission I want, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get it all the way I want it, right? I'm super stoked. I'm ready to go. Then they come to the door. The first thing I do is I greet them. Usually it's going to be Mr. Seller first, but whichever it is, I greet them. I shake their hand. When I shake their hand, I want to do firm handshake. I turn their hand over and I point my index finger down their wrist. That sounds weird, but I'm telling you, this puts you in a control position. Okay. This body language is very important. We have a body language expert named Jan Hargrave that teaches us stuff like this. She is amazing. Her clients are the FBI, CIA, Navy SEALs, Good Morning America, all the big news outlets, right? In fact, when Bill Clinton was on TV saying, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, she was on, I think it was Good Morning America or CNN, I can't remember which, saying, I don't think he's being truthful, right? That she's reading his body language. She's like a human lie detector. Anyway, long story short, she taught us this about the handshake. So I'm going to turn their hand over, point my index finger down their wrist. I'm going to look them square in the eye. And I'm going to make sure I make eye contact. I'll know I made eye contact because I'll notice their eye color. Very important. And then I'll say, John, I'm so glad to finally meet you. And then I go to Susie. I do the same thing with the handshake, turn the hand over. Susie, man, I'm so glad Jennifer referred you to us. Hey, do you mind if I get a few pictures before we get started on the paperwork? And I walk in and I immediately start taking pictures. Done. Now, watch this. That's very aggressive. And a lot of people think that's too aggressive. In fact, some people have asked me, Michael, have you ever been kicked out of a house? And the answer is yes. Not very often. I will tell you, though, Austin, when he first started learning how to do this, there was, I think in like a 3-month window, he got kicked out like 5 times or something like that. It was crazy. He got kicked out several times early on. Here's what I'll tell you. If you're not getting kicked out of the house once in a while, you're not being aggressive enough. Okay. You need to be confident, so confident that it's borderline arrogance. And I know that sounds weird, but I promise you, when it comes to at-large listings, I'm talking everything except for your sphere of influence, right? All other lead sources, that confidence is going to very likely mean the difference between getting the listing and not getting the listing. And take it from a guy who's listed more homes than anybody that's ever walked the planet. Okay. I promise you this works. All right. Now, that said, why do I mention the name? Why do I say I'm so glad Jennifer referred you to us? Because I want to build a little bit of instant rapport, and that helps make it a little less weird when I start taking pictures right away. Now, when I walk in, I start taking pictures. Guess what Mrs. Seller is going to say? Oh, but my house is such a mess. Oh, no worries. These pictures aren't for the marketing. These are just for my information and my team's information. Now, what did I just tell her? I'm going to be listing your house. And oh, by the way, I have a team, which first of all sets me apart from everybody else. It's really hard. If you're a solo agent competing against a team, guess what you need to compete with? Personal service, personal service, personal service. I cannot say that enough. Okay. That is the only way you're going to beat a good team. If it's a listing agent that's a good listing agent on a good team, the only chance you have to beat them, generally speaking, is going to be to compete on personal service. So you can say, oh, well, on that team, do you even know who you're going to be working with throughout the process? And it's going to switch from one person to the next, blah, 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 blah. With me, you get me all the time. You get my cell phone number. I'm going to be available to you 24/7, 365. I'm going to be the one that's dealing with all your stuff. I know your house better than anybody, blah, 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 blah. That's how you sell personal service if you're competing against a team. That being said, it's a huge advantage to be on a team. All right. And so, in fact, and Jorge, I appreciate that comment about the handshake and all that. Thank you so much. All right. That being said, guys, then I start walking upstairs, and what she's going to say is, don't you want to start in the kitchen? And why does she say that? First of all, who's in charge? Is it her or is it him? I'll give you a hint, guys. It's her. Okay. In fact, 99% of my focus and effort and energy is directed toward her during the listing appointment, not him. The guy, what does the guy want, right? He just wants to get back to the game, right? Or whatever else he was doing. She wants it done right. She wants to get the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache to her. He doesn't freaking care. You're an annoyance to him. He just wants to get this over with and go on with his day. Okay. And by the way, when it comes to making the decisions, she's making the decisions, unless you're in an abusive household. Now, I'll tell you, that's about 10. I'm going to say it's about, we'll call it 1 out of 100 times. So, let's call it 1% of the time. you're dealing with an abusive household. Now, it's very easy to tell. There's some telltale signs. There's 3 telltale signs. Number 1, if you're walking through the house and there's holes in doors, on the interior doors, good chance you're in an abusive household. Number 2, he won't let her get a word in edgewise because he's got his thumb on her. Not because he talks a lot like I do, just because he's got his thumb on her, right? That's another sign. Number 3, she will constantly defer to him and not want to answer any questions and want him to answer all the questions. Another sign. If more than one of those signs, or worse yet, all 3 of those exist, you're probably in an abusive household. So guess what? In that scenario, I direct my attention to him, okay? But in 99% of the time, it's directed toward her because she's the one that's making the decisions, okay? So she'll always want me to go into the kitchen because that's her safe space, okay? So, by the way, what's the guy's safe space? Yeah, we don't care. He's not the decision maker. It's irrelevant, right? We don't care about the guy. Forget about the guy. Focus on the woman, right? All right, so her safe space is the kitchen because that's the heart of the home, whatever. So I don't ever want to start there. I want to end in the kitchen, okay? Because I want to make sure we're sitting down on something hard, like the kitchen table. I don't want to be sitting on a soft couch or something like that doing my listing presentation. All right, so then I'll say, you know what? I always start upstairs. It's no big deal. I've got a system for this. By the way, am I going to run into anybody in bedrooms or bathrooms? So by going to that next question immediately, it doesn't give them time to have a concern, okay? So she'll say, no, there's nobody in bedrooms or bathrooms. Fantastic. So I start walking upstairs. Guess what she does? She follows right behind me every single time, okay? Now, guys, your wife is following some strange dude upstairs. What are you going to do? Of course, the guy's following her too, right? So now I'm like the Pied Piper of real estate walking through their house. Now, here's where this comes full circle. This is a big deal, right? So while I'm doing my walkthrough, I'm going to take pictures of every nook and cranny in the house, and I'm going to BROT. What does that stand for? Build relationships on trust using the Ford technique. So I'm going to ask open-ended questions about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, so I can get them doing 90% of the talking so I can build my relationship on trust. And I'm directing those questions to her. Guess what? By the end of our walkthrough, she needs to have all the talking out of her. If she has any talk left in her, I'm going to lose. She's going to fight me on terms. She's going to fight me on commission. She's going to fight me on whatever. But if I want to get all the things I want to get, I got to make sure she feels heard during the walkthrough. I got to make sure she feels like I've listened to her, I've heard her, I understand her, I care about her. And now when we get downstairs, we can have a real conversation. The worst thing that can happen is, I hate it when this happens. When you get downstairs and you haven't done this properly, she'll say something crazy like, oh, but Michael, you don't understand. See, our house is worth $400,000 more than the neighbor's house, even though they've got twice as much square footage, and they are waterfront and we're not, and they've got a 6-acre lot and we're a 500 square foot lot. But hey, we've got ceramic tile in the primary bathroom, so we're worth more. Right? I know you've had a client like that. Come on, you all have. Give me a laugh or a love or something on the screen if you guys have ever had a client like that, right? Hit that emoji button. I want to see how many of you have ever had a client like that. And here's the deal. I got to make sure that when she says that, I can say the following. Yeah, Susie, you know what? I did. I saw that ceramic tile, and it is beautiful, come to think of it. And by the way, I did notice there's a crack in the backsplash, but don't worry. It's not going to affect your price by that much, right? Now, what did I just do? I just basically went, kind of showed her who's boss, right? In an appropriate way. Guys, you need to make sure that she understands I'm not an expert in the room. I'm the expert in the room, okay? If she can't understand that, if you can't find a way to convey that in a non-offensive way, you're going to have a lot more objections than you need to have. So very important that I think you guys are laughing. I like that. That's funny. So good stuff. So I want to make sure that you guys do that properly. All right, now we get down to the kitchen table. I always want to sit Mrs. Seller to my right. Why? Because most people are right-handed. So from a neuro-linguistic programming standpoint, and I don't have time to teach you a lot about NLP today. That's something we talk about in coaching quite a bit. But from an NLP standpoint, so NLP, if you don't know what NLP is, look it up. But it's basically brainwashing for dummies, right? So it's essentially controlling behaviors through through body language and and all types of, what you say, how you say it, all that stuff, how it impacts people's ability or propensity to do what you want them to do. All right. So I always set Mrs. Seller to my right, if at all possible, because that puts me in the control position, because she's going to be the dominant one in this conversation if I'm not careful. Right. All right. Then I take the key box and I set the key box on the table, standing up right in front of her, and she'll do one of these. Oh my gosh, this stuff just got real, right? Like she's freaking out, right? That's good. I want her to know I'm not here to talk. I'm here to get this done. Okay. Then I go through my checklist and I always I'm talking to her. Now, I need to have made sure that before we sit down, I've got to control all of the distractions. Particularly, I got to get TVs and radios turned off. Okay. And I'll blame that on my ADD. And then I got to get rid of the two biggest killers of listings there are. Can anybody guess what they are? The two biggest listing killers out there are the following: kids and pets. I got to get rid of the kids and pets. If you don't get rid of the kids and pets, you're going to lose on a lot of listings that you would otherwise get. Okay. Very important. So here's how I do it. I'll look Mrs. Seller in the eye and I'll say, hey, Mrs. Seller, would it be okay if we just put the kids in the kennel and the pets in the other room for a little bit while we go over the paperwork? And she'll be like, ha, ha, ha. No, really. Right? Like, it's funny, right? Because I say kids in the kennel, but she gets it. She gets it. Hey, we got to get rid of these things and we got to get focused here. And so that allows me to make that happen. All right. Now, once that's done, then I can get onto my checklist. So I use a 44-point listing appointment checklist, which you can get on our website. If you would like the link for that, type in 44, just type in 44-point checklist in the chat, and I will have I'll have my team send you the checklist. Okay. So we're going to send it via DM. Okay. So just put 44-point checklist in the chat. Let me tell you how important the checklist is. Okay. That red pen, we talked about this earlier, right? Jeremy was talking about how I carry 4 blue ink pens and 1 ink pen. The red pen has made me millions and millions of dollars. And what I do is I take that red pen on every appointment, and what I'll do is I'll go through, and anytime I encounter a question, an objection, any challenge comes up, or anything I think about that I want to make sure I talk about on subsequent appointments, I'll take my red pen out and I'll make a little note in red ink. And they don't notice it hardly, and I just do it and we keep moving on. And that red ink tells my assistant, when I bring my paperwork back and I hand it to my assistant, anything she sees in red, she knows to update all future checklists forever. And so every single appointment I go on, my checklist gets better and better and better on every appointment. Can you imagine how good your appointments would be if you did this on just 10 appointments? Can you imagine how much better you'd be at this? What if you did it with 20 appointments, 100 appointments, 1,000? How about like I did? This 44-point checklist is a result of over 10,000 listing appointments. How good do you think that is? And I'll give it to you guys for free, no charge. Okay, just put 44-point checklist in there, and I will make sure we DM it to you. All right. Now, that said, when you get that checklist, don't use exactly the way I did it. Make it yours. Right? Change the stuff up. Make it make sense for you. Okay, that's important. All right, now. I go through my checklist. I get done with my checklist. I've gone through everything. At the very end, I look Mrs. Seller square in the eye, okay? And I simply say, are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork, right? And she'll say no. Now, if she objects, this is the objection you're most likely to get. What do you guys think? Can you guys guess what the most common objections are? Type in the chat, what do you think the most common objections are? I'll tell you the one that I'm going to tell you I think is most common is commission, okay? And so when if they hit you up for commission, I'm going to give you 3 different ways to handle that objection that work every time, okay? Now, the first time they ask, hey, Michael, will you cut your commission? No. Are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? Okay, super simple. That's it. That's all I say. No. Are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? 9 times out of 10, that's the end of it. We move on. We sign the listing. We're good to go. If they ask me again, and this will happen, they might say, yeah, but Michael, this other agent said they would cut their commission, right? They would do it for this much. Will you match their price? Right? So here's what I say. I'll say, and I'll use Yvette. You're going to be my seller now. So Yvette, let me ask you a question, Yvette. If an agent's not strong enough to negotiate for their own commission, what makes you think they're going to be strong enough to negotiate for the price of your home? Oh, right? All of a sudden, she gets it. Now, if she asks a third time, and they virtually never ask more than 3 times. If they ask more than 3 times, you may have to make an adjustment to make sure you get this listing, okay? But they generally won't. 99% of the time, the third time, what they'll say is, no, really, will you cut your commission? Because I'm not going to list with you if you don't cut your commission. Then you say, okay. So let me ask you this. I've shown you in our appointment today how I get 5.25% more for my listings than the average agent gets for their listings. So if you're going to make 5.25% more and you're only going to pay me an extra 2%, that means you're netting an extra 3.25% with me more than you would with any other agent. So the question I have to ask is, what's more important to you? How much I make or how much you make? End of story. Game over. You're getting your commission 9 times out of 10 with that. Guys, it's really not that complicated. And stick around, because the very last thing I'm going to teach you today is how to get, instead of getting that 10,000, how to get that 20,000 and have them love you for it. And when I'm telling you, when I show you this, it's going to change your business forever. If that's the only thing you get out of today, I promise that thing right there will change your business forever. And I'm going to be showing you that in just a couple of minutes. All right. So before I teach you that, can I have your permission? Would you guys be okay if I told you about an event we have coming up? And if I have your permission, type in yes into the chat. Before I want to just tell you what it's like coaching with us, and then I'm going to teach you this last thing. And actually, I'm going to teach you 2 more things. I'm going to teach you that, and I promised I would also teach you the perfect daily schedule. So I'm going to give you the perfect daily schedule that's guaranteed to make you whatever your average sales price in your market in net income first year using it. And I'm also going to teach you the how to get them to give you the 20,000 instead of the 10,000. But before I do, I need to get your permission to tell you about the event that we have coming up and what it's like coaching with us. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. So first and foremost, we have this event coming up. It's Listing Agent Bootcamp. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. It is, if you get on our website right now to go buy a ticket, it's $997 to buy a ticket to this event. It's worth every penny of it. I will tell you also that there are a lot of people that wait until the last minute to buy their tickets. And the month before the event, the prices go up to $1,500 per ticket. And people pay it every year. And it's worth it. And they get the value. And they come to our events year after year after year. And I don't know if you've been to one of our events, could you mention that in the comment? Like, what did you think of our events? I don't know if there's anybody on the calls here that have actually been to one of our events before. Jeremy, I think you have, haven't you? But if you've been to one of our events, I'd love you to share your feelings about our events. And that's right, you did VIP, that's right. So we'll talk about VIP in a second. That being said, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do something I don't do online. I only do this in live events. Normally, when I do my half-day events, when I go around the country and I do these half-day events, what I'm gonna do is, for those of you that would like to go to this event, I'm not gonna have you pay $1,500. You're not even gonna have to pay the $997 for the online price, which, by the way, people pay every single day, and it's worth it. But what I'm gonna do is, for those of you that sign up for this event before the end of this webinar, so while we're still live on this webinar, for those of you that sign up for the event, I will let you pay only $497 for your ticket. And I'm telling you, that's a screaming deal. I don't offer online ever. I don't ever offer that online. And so here's what you're going to learn at the event. Here's what's really important about this event. It's not just me teaching a bunch of stuff. There's going to be over 200 agents at the event, and their average sales is going to be, the average agent in the room sells over 200 homes a year. I mean, we're talking all the big ballers around the country. And let's take it a step further. They're the coolest people you've ever met. And the classes that are being taught, they're not all taught by me. They're taught by these agents that are the top agents around the country. So you're going to get to be in a room with people that you're going to be looking around and you're going to be like, how did I get in this room? Like, you're going to be like, and that's where you want to be. You always want to feel like the dumbest person in the room, right? I know I'm in the right room if I'm looking around saying, man, I can't believe I got in here, but I'm sure glad I'm here, right? And so that being said, what you're going to do is you're going to learn from these agents that are the best at the thing they're teaching. So during this event, I can't remember the number, but there's 30 or so breakout sessions at these events. And this one, we've got a whole bunch of sessions specific to listing more houses. You want to list more houses in the next 12 months? This is the event you got to be at. Then we also have, and whether you're a team leader, broker owner, solo agent, whether you're an administrative assistant, a buyer agent, a listing agent, a jack of all trades, regardless, you're going to get massive value out of this event. So much so that I will guarantee that you walk out of day one, it's a 2-day event, I guarantee that you will walk out of day one so enamored and believing that it's the best real estate event you've ever been to, and confident that you're going to make at least an extra $100,000 in the next 12 months as a direct result of learning what you learned at that event. That if you come to me by the end of day one and you don't feel that way, if you don't feel like it was worth it, then guess what? You come up to me at the end of day one and I won't just give you your money back. I'll give you 200% of your money back. And I'll buy you a first class ticket back home. And I'll get you a limo from the airport back to your house. But you got to leave right then. You can't stay for day two. Guess how many people have ever taken me up on that? Nobody. The events are that good, you guys. The teachers are amazing. They're actual agents. They're absolutely crushing it in today's market. Many of whom, in fact, most of whom had their best years ever this year. Guys, I'm telling you, you need to be at this event. Now, that deal, that $497, that's only valid for while we're on this call. So here's how you're going to get that deal. You go to the website and you're going to sign up for a ticket. It's going to charge you $997 for the ticket. But then my team's going to go back in and they're going to refund you immediately for half of that ticket price. So they're going to refund you $500 so that your ticket only costs you $497. Okay. Now, if you're not able to put $997 on your credit card, then I'm going to give you another option, and you're going to reach out to my office. You're going to go right now, or as soon as we're done here. Actually, you got to do it. I'll make you a deal. I'll give you 15 minutes after the end of this thing, so you have time if you have to jump on the help desk. So you're just going to go to clubwealthhelp.com. clubwealthhelp.com. That's going to put you on a Zoom call live with my team, and they're going to take your ticket order. Okay. Now, that said, I want to give you another little tidbit here. If you can, like Jeremy said, get the VIP ticket. I'd like to know, how many of you are country music fans? If you're a country music fan, type in country into the chat or into the comments. Okay. If you're a country music fan. So there's a guy, I don't know if you know him or not. His name is Tracy Lawrence. This guy's got 15 top 5 hits. He's got 8 number 1 hits in the country music charts. And those of you that do VIP, not only are you going to get to first access to all the seating, you're going to get lunch both days. You're going to get a dinner one night. You're going to get the workbook. Watch this. Hold on. Check this out. So look at this. So at these events, you can't go to all the sessions because all the sessions happen at the same time, right? And so there's all this information you're going to want to get. And we publish a book. These are some sample books. These are just examples of books. Look at these books. Look how thick these things are. I'll just take one, for example. This is this one's a Business Strategy Mastermind Conference in 21. Look at how big this book is, dude. Look at all that information in there. This has every PowerPoint from every session at that event in the book. When you're in VIP, you get the book. When you're in VIP, you get the lunches both days. When you're in VIP, you get the dinner. And this time, when you're in VIP, you get a personal concert, private concert with Tracy Lawrence at the event. I'm not even kidding you guys. Now, we are not allowed to advertise this publicly because he's worried that his fans are all going to just buy tickets to our event just so they can do a private concert with him. The guy's a big deal. And by the way, we're only allowing 300 people into that concert. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, that said, the first 2 people, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to do it for the first 2 people. The first 2 people that sign up for that event today, Camille, I need you to write this down. The first 2 people that sign up for that event today, I'm going to give you a VIP backstage pass so you get to do a photo op with Tracy Lawrence. Okay. So that's for the first 2 people that sign up while we're on this call. Okay. All right. Now, that being said, there's also coaching with us. There's all kinds of things we'd love to do with you and we'd love to help you out with. I would love to have you come to this event. I guarantee the event. Otherwise, you get your money back and you get the free airfare back home and the first class ticket, all that stuff. When it comes to coaching with us, I'll tell you, if you're in tier 1, we give you 3 options. So because everybody's tier 1 or tier 2 or group. So we have a group coaching option, which is just what it sounds like. It's group calls. It's phenomenal. It's $97 a month. You can start and stop at any time. And with that group, you get calls every single week. They're live calls. They're real time. We record all the calls. So if you miss a call or can't make it to a call or whatever, then you can watch the recordings. Not a problem. They're full hour long each week. You also get all the checklists, because we do checklists for everything, right? Whatever you need to do in your business, there's a checklist for it. We will provide you with those, even in the group coaching. And we provide you with the technology. So you get our stat tracker technology, which is similar to CSU or CTE, but better. And we also provide you with Club Wealth University. 4,000 videos you have access to in Club Wealth University. Guys, it's massive. And there's a ton more. I don't have time to go. I want to get back to teaching you these last couple of things. I want to make sure that's the priority. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to you about the group coaching, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Those of you that sign up for the group coaching today, while we're on the call, I'm going to give you the website. Just go to clubwealth.com/group, clubwealth.com/group, and you can sign up. It'll charge you $97. Again, you can start and stop at any time. But then here's what I'm going to do. Do it today, and I will have my team update your subscription so it's not $97. It's only $77. But you got to do it while you're on the call today. Okay? So get that done. It's clubwealth.com/group. All right. Now, and by the way, if you're using Madison as one of your preferred lenders and you're in the Black Hat program, you will get that group coaching included with Black Hat. Okay. So it's a pretty killer deal. All right. Now, the one-on-one coaching, and this is what really moves me on. This last thing I'm going to tell you, then we're going to go to the perfect daily schedule. And then I'm going to tell you how to get $10,000 instead of 20 and have them love you for it. So the one-on-one coaching, I'm going to say this. It's not the cheapest coaching program out there, but it's the one that works. Okay. And I say that very confidently. We'll guarantee it, and you'll hear the guarantee in a second, but we back it up with an unbeatable guarantee. And so here's how the coaching works. Our one-on-one coaching, we don't do half-hour calls. Those are a waste of time. We do full hour-long calls. You have a one-on-one call on the first and third week of every month with your coach. And your coach is always going to be somebody who's in the tier above you. So if you're tier 1, your coach is in tier 2. If you're in tier 2, your coach is in tier 3, and so forth. We are the only company on the planet that does this. And the reason why we do this is because if you want to get to tier 3, you need a coach that's been there before. It blows me away that people are giving money to coaching companies where not only the coaches haven't sold a lot of real estate, but the freaking guy that owns the company doesn't even sell a lot of real estate and never has. Guys, if you want to climb to the top of Mount Everest, you need a guide who's actually been to the top of Mount Everest before. If you agree with me with that, give me an amen or give me an emoji of some kind, but do something to indicate that you agree that if you want to climb to the top of Mount Everest, you need a guide who's actually been there before. All right. Now, that being said, the cost for let me back up. Not only do you get the one-on-one calls on the first and third week of each month, but you get unlimited calls with your coach all month long. Nobody else does that. And oh, by the way, you also get mastermind calls for you and for your team. So everybody, you and your team included, are all able to join the group coaching calls at no cost because you're in one-on-one. You also get mastermind calls like the buyer agent mastermind call, the listing agent mastermind call, the ISA mastermind call, the recruiting mastermind call. You have tier specific mastermind calls. So if I'm in tier 1, I can access the tier 1 calls and the group calls. If I'm in tier 2, I also get the tier 2 calls. If I'm in tier 3, I get the tier 3 calls and all the other stuff, right? So in every tier, you get all that stuff and the stuff in the tiers below you. Guys, I could go on and on and on about all the live calls that are available to you. And it wouldn't even do it justice. I just understand this. Every turn, my goal is I always want you saying, dude, I can't believe I get that too. Man, like how can they afford to even provide me with all of this? It will blow you away at every turn, I promise you. And here's the deal. If in the first 30 days you decide that the coaching is not for you, no problem. You can cancel. We'll give you 100% of your money back. No questions asked. Done. Okay. Now, you can also cancel at any time with 60 days notice. No problem. Okay. No, and we'll give you, and now we don't give your money back if you're, a year into the program, but you don't have to pay anymore. You just have to, you just give your notice. And 60 days later, you're no longer obligated on the coaching. Now, the investment for the coaching is for tier 1, and Camille, if I get this wrong, please correct me. I think I remember the pricing off the top of my head. It's $847 or $897. I think it's $847 a month for tier 1. Now, if you will commit to a 1-year agreement, then it's only $747. So you'll save $100, right? And Jeff, the incentive for spouse partners is they don't pay a dime. Are you talking about for the event, or are you talking about for coaching? For coaching, you want the spouse on the coaching calls with you, so they get all those calls for free. Now, if for the event, your team members, and that would include your spouse, right? They are only, I'm going to give them their ticket for $397 to the event today. So great question, Jeff. I appreciate you bringing that up. All right, now, and I recommend, by the way, that you go to separate classes because you want to learn all the stuff, bring it back, and then compare notes. Okay, you'll get more out of it that way. You'll learn a lot more, you'll implement more that way. Okay, now back to the coaching. So it's $847 if you want to be able to cancel in 60 days, $747 if you're willing to commit to a year. You can always cancel in the first 30 days, get 100% of your money back. And I just lost my train of thought. Okay. Oh, and there's a 1 month enrollment fee. So it costs, so if you're doing on the 847 program, then there's an $847 enrollment fee. That's a one-time fee. Now, that said, I'm going to do two things for anyone that signs up for coaching today. Okay. Today is the 18th. Okay. For anybody that signs up for coaching today that's on this call, I'm going to do two things for you. And by the way, the tier 2 is $1,297 or $1,197 if you are doing the year commitment. For those that sign up today, I will do, and I never do this, guys. This is something that I almost never, ever do this. I will waive the enrollment fee, and I will give you the event ticket, the general admission event ticket at no cost. But you got to sign up for coaching today. And I'm telling you right now, like, that's an unbelievable deal. And anybody that's in coaching with us knows that is a killer deal, because everybody that's in coaching with us now paid a lot more than that. Okay. All right. Why would I do that? Because I want to incentivize you to get involved, right? And I want to, if I know if I can get you in the system, if I can keep you in the system for at least 6 months, I'm going to be able to double your income, or at least if you're in tier 1 or tier 2, I'm going to be able to double your income in the first 12 months if you follow exactly what we tell you to do. If you don't make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, guess what I'll do? I'll give you 100% of your money back. What? Yeah, if you've done what we've told you to do and you don't make at least an extra $100,000, I will give you your money back. Guess how many people have ever asked me for their money back? Nobody's even asked for it back because it works, right? So that said, I want to get moving on. Are there any questions about the coaching? Now, to sign up for the coaching, here's what I want you to do. What I want you to do is I want you to, how are we going to do this? I want you to go to clubwealthhelp.com, and I want you to tell them, I want to sign up for coaching today, and I want to get the deal that Michael promised me on the webinar. Okay. And they'll get you taken care of. All right. Done. Game over. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right. Any questions on that before we move on? Okay. All right. Now, dude, I'm so excited about this next part. So I'm going to give you two massive takeaways today that will change your business right now. So the first one is the perfect daily schedule. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to like this one. The second one's easy. You'll like it. The first one, the perfect daily schedule, you're not going to like it, but it works. Okay. Now, first and foremost, if you want to double your income this year, I need you to go to the office. Yeah, to the physical office. Not your home office, the office. Okay. I don't have time to go into the details, but there are studies that prove unequivocally that you will be more effective working from an office than you are working from home. This is very important. You need to be in an environment around other people who are headed in the same direction, who are also there focused and working hard and doing the things that need to be done on a daily basis to have success. That synergy is very, very important to your success. All right. So that's mission critical. Number one, you need to go to the office. Now, I'm going to recommend you need to be in the office prior to, some of you are going to hate me for this, 7:30 a.m. Okay. Now, I know that some of you are probably thinking, oh, but Michael, I've got to drop my kids off at school. Okay, I get that. I understand that. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying you wanted the perfect daily schedule that will get results no matter what, that will get you to an income of at least whatever your average sales price is in that market. And by the way, it'll be far more than that, but it will at least get you, if your average sales price is $400,000, then guess what? The perfect daily schedule will get you to $400,000 per year in net income by just following it. All right. So be in the office by 7:30. Now, if you have to drop your kids off at school, guess what? The second you drop them off, you head straight to the office and you get to work. Okay. Next, I want you to, from 7:30 till 8 o'clock, this is where you do your daily huddle with your team. If you do not have a team, you need to find an accountability partner. If you're in coaching with us, that's easy to do. Okay. We will help you with that. We got tons of them. Okay. It's very, very easy to do. If you're not in coaching with us, you need to find an accountability partner. And every morning from 7:30 to 8, you guys need to do a call where you talk about how many calls you make yesterday, how many contacts you have, how many appointments you set, how many contracts you write, how many listings you take. You need to go over your numbers, okay? And by the way, Faye, this session is almost over. We've got, if you're asking how long this session right here is, we're going to be done in about 15 minutes, maybe less, 10 to 15 minutes tops, okay? All right, so that being said, this is very important. Now, from 8 o'clock till noon, there's only 3 things you should be doing from 8 o'clock till noon. And really, it comes down to 2, and that's lead generation and lead follow-up, okay? Now, again, this isn't a forever thing, but when you're in tier 1 and 2, guess what? You got to do lead generation and lead follow-up every day, and you need to do 4 hours a day or more. And here's the deal. Would you rather be in control of your schedule and be able to do 4 hours a day and make $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year? Or would you rather not do this, fail like 87% of the agents that get into this business and end up working for somebody else and being told what you have to do 8 hours a day? You make the choice. Oh, by the way, for $40,000, $50,000 a year, like you make the call. Which do you prefer? But I'm telling you right now, you need to control all incoming distractions. So all incoming phone calls, emails, text messages, all that stuff. You want all of that gone during your prospecting time. And your prospecting time needs to be 100% focused on lead generation, lead follow-up. Guys, if you'll do this, I know that sounds like a rough schedule, but dude, what you just found out is you can make a super solid 6-figure income, a mid 6-figure income, working just 23 and a half hours a week, or sorry, 22 and a half hours a week. That's pretty good, guys. That's pretty stinking good. All right. I don't know any other business you could do that. Having a real estate license is like having a license to print cash. Now, if you want to go deeper on the perfect daily schedule, go to our website, go to clubwealth.com/PDS, and there's more detail there. There's samples of other people's perfect daily schedules. What's perfect for you is going to be different than what's perfect for somebody else. But I will tell you this, there is a direct correlation between the people that are in the office earlier, and I'm saying pre-7:30. I mean, I can tell you that the most successful people are in the office at 6:30 or 6 even. But if you're there pre-7:30 is kind of the magic number. There's a direct correlation between that and prospecting for 4 hours each day, 5 days a week, and then the propensity for success. So there you go. There's the perfect daily schedule. Now, you can get it from the website. You can go deeper on it. But let's talk about this last thing. This is huge. If all you get out today is this thing right here, it was worth our time together, okay? Now, the problem most of you have, and the reason why on that, let's say that $400,000 listing, the reason that most people are getting $10,000 instead of $20,000 is a couple of things. Number one, they're making a huge mistake. They're telling people what they charge. Well, wait a minute. What do I mean by that? Am I telling you to deceive people? No, not at all. What I'm telling you is that, you know what? Carlos, thank you for bringing it up. I have not talked about that yet. When we get done with everything else, then I'll cover that because I don't know if everybody's going to want to hear about that, but those that do can stick around and I'll walk them through that. All right, so watch this. You need to stop telling people what you charge. What do I mean by this? When you go in and you say to somebody, I charge X percent, what you're really doing is issuing an ultimatum. What you're saying is, I won't work for you unless you pay me this. Nobody likes ultimatums. That's very off-putting, right? People like choices. So we want to give them choices instead of an ultimatum. So we do that using something called menu-driven selling. Now, I started doing this back in 1991 when I got into the business. I learned this from the tech industry, right? This is a very common sales technique in the tech industry, and it's only recently becoming more popular in real estate. And I think in large part because I'm teaching it like crazy. Why? Because I think, especially with the new settlement and all that stuff, guys, this is the holy grail of getting more in commissions. Everybody's been worried about commissions going down as a result of the settlement. You know what I've seen? Since August, we've consistently seen both on the listing side and the selling side, commissions go up substantially. And this is a big part of the reason why. You've got to learn to articulate your value, all right? So watch this. grab a piece of paper and draw this. Okay? I want you to draw that on your paper. Super simple. I want you to write basic, standard, premium. Basic, standard, and premium. Write that right down, okay? Super simple. What we're going to do is we're going to come up with, there's 3 menus that you're going to use in your business, okay? You're going to use a buyer menu, a seller menu, and if you recruit to a downline or to a team or a brokerage or whatever, then you're going to use a recruiting menu also. Today, I'm going to do a seller menu, okay? So it's very easy. When I go on my listing appointment, I want to have these 3 programs that I offer them. So what do I have to work when we start with the basic? I want you guys to write above each one of those, above your basic. And by the way, you can't share this with anybody. If you share this with anybody else, you would be guilty of racketeering, right? It's a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. So you can talk to your broker, your team leader, or your spouse or your attorney about it. But that's about it. Okay. All right. So above basic, I want you to write down, what is the least amount of money I would ever go to work for? Like if you don't pay me at least X%, I'm not even going to list your house. No way. Okay. Put that above basic. Then I want you to skip standard and I want you to go to premium. Over premium, I want you to write, what's the most I would ever charge? Like I couldn't in good conscience charge more than that. Put that above premium. And then above standard, I want you to write in, what do I really want to charge? Now, hold on before you write it. This should be at least 1% more than what you've been charging. Why? Because I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't helping you make more money. And I want to see you get what you're worth. Now, watch this, guys. You're probably freaking out about this thinking, oh my gosh, Michael, nobody's going to want to, pay me all that money, blah, 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 blah. Guys, if I had, let's say, for example, I've got my cup here and it's got, there's a little bit of water left in there. And if I said, hey, I'm going to sell you this cup of water for $100. It's only probably 10% backwash at this point. Who would pay $100 for that? Like nobody, right? You're not going to pay $100 for that. You wouldn't even pay me $5. You wouldn't give me anything for that. You don't want it. It's gross, right? You don't want my backwash, right? And so watch this though. What if I said, hey, you know what? You don't realize this, but through some magical means, I've poisoned everybody in the audience right now, right? Like you're all going to die a horrible, painful death. And so the only way to survive is if you get the antidote, which happens to be in this glass right here, in this cup right here. Now, who'd pay me $100 for it? Everybody would, right? Heck, you'd pay me $10,000. Every dollar you had, you'd pay me for it, right? And so write this down. This is where I'm going with this. This is so important, you guys. Write this down. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Guys, that's crazy important, okay? If you can articulate enough value, people will pay you whatever you want to charge, okay? Now, how do we do that? So on our menu, what do I have to do to get a house sold? Okay, we're talking about basic here. What are the things I have to do? Well, I've got to put it in the MLS. I got to take a photo of the front of the home. I'm going to put a sign in the front yard. I'm going to put a lockbox on it. And then for those of you in the South, you'll appreciate this one. This is what's most agents' marketing plan. Then I'm going to pray and hope that somebody else sells it because Lord knows I'm not going to do it. Hallelujah. Right? I'm just kidding. All right, that's terrible. But you get what I'm saying, right? I mean, the reality is that's most agents' marketing plan. It freaking sucks, right? Most agents don't do what it takes to go out and get houses sold. Well, that's your basic plan, okay? Now, what can be done to get a house sold? All right? Let's talk about that. I can do things like I can do an open house over here. Maybe I'll do one of them here. I'll do open house times as many as it takes over here. I might do pro photos. I might do a floor plan. I might do black and white flyers. Over here, I might do a full color brochure. I might do 3D. I might do drone. I might do video. Okay, you get the point, right? I'm not going to go into all the things you can do, but think about this. There's all this stuff that you can fill into your menu. Here's my challenge for you. You should be using AI in your business. Let me give you an AI challenge for you. I want you to go into ChatGPT, or if you're lucky and you're an Android user like I am, congratulations. Sorry for you iPhoners. This won't work for you, but it will work for the Android user. You go to Gemini, right, which is even better than ChatGPT, according to many. So that being said, go into your, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT, and I want you to ask it, what are all of the things a real estate agent can do to bring value to the seller? Okay. then it's going to spit out a bunch of stuff. Take that, fill in your seller menu, your listing menu, okay? Now, it's not about what's in the menu. It's just that there has to be a lot of value in the menu so that you can sell it properly. And it's how you sell it that matters. This is where you make the money. So remember, I got my 4 blue ink pens, my red ink pen. I'm going to start off with my red ink pen. All right, and I'm going to look Mrs. Seller in the eye, and I'm going to say, Susie, I love your house. I think it's fantastic. I'm a little concerned about the market. As you know, the market's down 26 to 38% year over year, depending on which neighborhood you're in. And I'll be honest with you, I just don't think that this basic plan is going to be enough to get you top dollar for your home in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache to you. So if it's okay with you, should we just go ahead and cross that one off? All right, fantastic. And as I'm nodding my head, guess what she's doing? She's nodding her head, okay? All right, so that said, Susie, this premium plan here, as much as I'd love to charge you all that money for the premium plan, I got to be honest with you, I'm just not sure that you need to spend all that money. So if we could get you top dollar for the home without having to do that, would it be okay if we just cross that off and saved you that money? Oh, yeah, that'd be fantastic. Okay, great. So I cross that off with my red pen, okay? Then guess what I do? I switch over to my blue pen, all nonchalant, like grab my blue pen, and I say, Susie, that leaves us with our standard plan. This is the plan right here that all my clients, just like you, go with. This is the plan that's going to get you the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache to you. Won't that be great? Fantastic. It's literally that simple. She's now sold because guess what? She feels like it was her choice and I didn't browbeat her into she had to go with this plan. Now, guess what? 9 times out of 10, they will select that middle plan. If you sell it just like I showed you, they will select that middle plan every freaking time. And you look like a hero because you didn't pressure them one way or the other. But did you know walking in what they were going to pay? Yeah, you knew walking in what you were going to get. But you have to take the time to ease them into it. It's kind of like when you go on a date, guys. Okay, listen, this cracks me up. You go on a blind date, guys. When the girl opens the door, do you just dive right in for a kiss? No, you bring her flowers, you take her to dinner, you maybe go to a movie or whatever. If you're lucky, maybe she holds hand with you on the way home. Who knows, right? But you got to bring her some value first. So many of you guys are trying to make out with your freaking clients on the front porch without bringing them any value, okay? So we got to take the time to bring them some value, let them go through the process. Game over, they're sold, you're getting your commission that you want, and 9 times out of 10, you won't even get a commission objection when you do it that way. And if you do, you resolve it in the 3 ways that I showed you earlier. All right, that being said, we haven't, the one last question that we have was from Carlos, but before I get to Carlos's question, here's what I want to remind you guys. First of all, I want to thank you for being on. This has been a crazy, 3.5 hours, something like that. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all your comments, all your feedback. It would mean the world to me if you would hit the share button. Just freaking slam on that share button over and over and over again. Share it to your Facebook feed. Share it to your friends. Share it to chats with your friends. Send it to everybody you can. Share it to your broker. Share it to other agents you know across the country. It would really mean a lot to me. If you would just help me get the word out, and if you feel like they would be, if they would benefit from this information, I would appreciate that a lot. That said, those of you that are interested in carrying this conversation on further and you would like to, even if you just want to explore, maybe you're not ready to sign up yet and you just want to explore signing up for Club Wealth or signing up for, the event or something like that. Well, then guess what? At the very least, go to clubwealthhelp.com, jump on our help desk, have somebody, connect with somebody there, and let them know that you would like a strategy session. You can also, if you just want to book it yourself, you can go to clubwealth.com/strategy session, and you can book a strategy session with one of our coaches. And they will walk you through what it's like to work with us. Now, I'll tell you this, if you want the deal that I promised you, you got to sign up for coaching today. Okay. So if you want that deal, if you're fairly confident, you're like, hey, you know what? I think I might want to sign up for coaching today, and you want to save all that money I just talked to you about, then the key would be go to clubwealthhelp.com, get your strategy session done today, and get signed up for coaching today so you get that deal. Same thing with the event. If you want that event ticket, make sure you get that today, and we'll put that in the comments. So Camille, if you could put clubwealth.com/LABC in there, or you can just go to clubwealthhelp.com and they will get that event ticket taken care of for you. And you, again, will save the money. I highly recommend upgrading to VIP. By the way, I forgot to tell you the cost for that VIP, to upgrade to VIP is $447. And I'm telling you right now, the concert alone, can you imagine being in a private concert with like 300 people and an A-list country music star? Are you kidding me? That alone is worth $447, let alone all the other stuff you get with the VIP. So get signed up for that. And guys, just, I want to help you. I can't, if we're not engaged, like if we're not working together, it's hard for me to help you because, like, how am I going to do that? Right. Like we have a system for helping you. And here's the key. When you're coaching with us, you should be moving up one tier per year. Okay. So in other words, if you're in tier 1 today, then a year from now, you should be in tier 2, which means you should be closing 25 to 50 transactions a year by next year, or sorry, 25 to 75. If you are in tier 2 today and you start coaching with us today, then a year from now, you should be in tier 3 and so forth. Okay. You should be moving at least one tier per year. And I have seen people, I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Virginia Corbett. Okay. She came to us, single mom. She became a single mom in 3-month window. All this happened in 3 months. Gets a divorce from an abusive husband. He takes all the money out of the bank account, strips the bank account. She loses her house, becomes homeless, right? Because she leaves the house, becomes a single mom, takes the kid with her, and loses her job. And, oh, by the way, becomes a real estate agent and signs up for coaching with Club Wealth, all in a 3-month window. And guess what? In 3 years, she was in tier 5. Just so you know, tier 5 is 250 to 500 transactions a year. I think she's in tier 6 now. Don't quote me on that, but I think she's in tier 6 now. And I've seen people, Nicole Godet, it took her from tier 1, just like you guys are in tier 1. She went from tier 1 to tier 4 literally in 14 months. So I'm not even joking. So prior to coaching with us, she'd never done more than 15 transactions in a year in her life. She'd been an agent for 7 years, came to coach with us. Her first year with us, her first 14 months with us, she did 150 transactions. I'll give you another one that actually beat her. Kelly Lidke. So Nicole's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Kelly, Virginia, by the way, is in Pugapepsi. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Pugapepsi, New York, or something like that. And then Kelly Lidke is in, where is she? She's in Roanoke, Virginia, I believe. And Kelly went from tier 1 to tier 4 in 10 months. 10 months. It took her to go from sub 25 transactions a year to 150 transactions in her first 10 months with us. And yes, Camille, thank you for that. I was just going to answer that. So Jeremy, the deal for the coaching today is when you sign up today for coaching, we're going to waive the enrollment fee and we're going to give you the general admission event ticket at no cost. Okay. And if you've already paid, I know you've already got your ticket, Jeremy, so we would just credit that to the next event. Okay. And so super straightforward. And as you know, Jeremy, because you've been to our events before, we never do this. Like this is a truly today only deal. So I'm really glad you asked that question. All right. Other questions for me? I want to make sure I'm reading all these. Oh, the name of the daughter's lending company is Perfect Fit Loans. Madison's lending company is Perfect Fit Loans. And they are a branch of Nexa Mortgage. They broker to over 200 different lenders nationwide. And the number one lender in the country, which is, the number one wholesale lender in the country, United Wholesale Mortgage. 2 years in a row now, she has won their award for consistently fastest close times. Her average close time last year was 14 days from application to close. This year, she's down to 12 days from application to close. Not bad. And let me tell you something, that matters. You guys know that. I don't need to tell you that. You already know that. So she'll get in touch with you guys. And actually, Camille, if you could take that out of there, what we're going to do is those of you that want contact with Madison, so Camille, if you could just delete that latest comment that you had there. Hold on, never mind. I got it for you. Okay, so those of you that want, she already did. She beat me to it. You're so fast, Camille. All right, so those of you that want to be connected with Madison, just type in lender in the comments. And why am I doing that instead of just putting it in the comments? Because number one, I want engagement in the post. That helps me in the algorithm in Facebook. And number two, because I know that the best intentioned people, life happens. The second you get off this call, guess what's going to happen? Life. You're going to have stuff going on. You're going to get distracted with all kinds of other stuff. And so guess what? I know that if you put lender in there, I can 100% promise you we're going to be DMing you. And by the way, if you want to put your phone number in there, I can ever call you. If you want to DM me your phone number, I'll make sure she calls you. But here's what I can promise you. She won't drop the ball on follow-up. I promise you that. And by the way, that's what you need with your clients too. You need a lender. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. When you're doing Black Hat and you're using Madison as one of your preferred lenders, you get all the stuff I talked about there. But she has an ISA team, right? Inside sales agents, live callers that will call your leads and warm transfer. Once they get one of your leads on the phone, they'll warm transfer them to you. And if they can't get a hold of you, they'll warm transfer them to Madison. Madison will get them closed on an appointment for you. Dude, I'm telling you, like, I can't believe I forgot to tell you that. Like, you guys need to be talking to Madison. Okay. Talk to her, talk to Sawyer. Those guys are killing it. So anyway, type in lender in the chat if you have any, if you want more information on that. All right, now I'm going to go back to that last question. Let's see, where was that? There it is. Carlos was asking, hey, what was that mistake that cost you $100 million? And let me put it this way. I don't know the exact number is 100 million. I suspect that it's actually a lot more than that. And let me tell you what the mistake was. So in 2007, I caught the Washington State Department of Real Estate Licensing breaking the law, and I sued them, and I won. And it was the dumbest thing I ever did in my career. Why? Because when I got that court order that said they had to stop breaking the law, they decided that, well, hey, we have to show the world that you don't come after us, we come after you. So they hired a private investigator the following week who spent the next 17 and a half months interviewing every single person. This girl worked full-time for 17 and a half months. All her entire job was contacting everybody that she could find that had ever done business with us, whether it was a buyer, seller, lender, a title company, anybody. And she called them and she would ask them to file a complaint against us. And she would write these complaints on state letterhead and send them to them and ask them to send them back. Well, guess what? 17 and a half months go by. She gets 21 letters back. 18 of those letters are from one office. They're all from Windermere agents in the Renton office of Windermere. And the reason why I didn't get along with that broker, we hated each other, frankly. And he told all his agents, he said, hey, if you don't sign this letter, then I'm going to sign off your license and fire you, right? And the way we found out this was happening is because one of the agents was so upset by that, she left his brokerage and came and joined our team. And she told us this was going on. That's how we didn't even know the investigation was going on. So then the other three were all short sale sellers. Now, if you guys know of anything about short sale sellers, you know that their complaint was, I didn't get the deficiency waived, but I couldn't get the deficiency waived because that's the bank's choice. Only the bank gets to decide if they're going to waive that their right to seek a deficiency judgment. So again, there wasn't a little legitimate complaint in the entire bunch. And the state knew that. And so they sent us a letter saying, yeah, looks like you're doing everything you're supposed to do. So we're just going to go ahead and drop it and move on. Well, fast forward to 2010, we find out. So this is 3 years later now from the original time where we beat them in court. 2010, we find out they're violating that court order. So our attorney tells us, and this is a great lesson to you. I really want you guys to learn this lesson. There's several actually lessons to come from this. The attorney calls me and tells me, hey, Michael, you have to take him to court and enforce your court order or you're complicit and the court order goes away. I said, okay, fine. What does that mean? What do we need to do? He says, just authorize me $1,500. I'll take care of it. So he takes him to court the next day, files the lawsuit, and then that Friday at 5:30 p.m., rather than going to court with us where they knew they would lose, what do you think they did? Yeah, you guessed it. 5:30 p.m., they send an email suspending my real estate license with no warning, no, hey, we think you're doing anything wrong, no due process, none of that. And they copied the MLS on it, and they told the MLS to cancel my 750 plus active and pending listings. So that day, I had $4.5 million in pending commissions, gone instantly, right? But all the listings were gone. I'm not allowed to contact my clients at this point because then I'd be practicing real estate without a license, right? Because at this point, I'm not a licensed real estate agent. Takes me 30 days to get them in front of a judge. They dodged me for 30 days. We finally get them in front of the judge. What do you think the judge says? The judge says, hey, you guys have violated Michael's civil rights in 3 different ways. He ruled that they were grossly negligent for taking our licenses to begin with, and he made them give us the licenses back and told them to leave us alone. So now we get our license back. Took me about 90 days to get back up to 227 listings. But here's the real problem. Now they started trying to come after me because now they're like, oh my gosh, and now we really have to send a message. So they spend, I can't remember how many months it was, but the next handful of months, they just started making stuff up. I fought with them in court. I spent $352,000 I beat them every time we went to court in front of an actual judge. And when they didn't succeed with actual judges, they went before an administrative judge, which is an employee of the person I'm suing, right? And that guy said, oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to uphold that. And so then we had to go to appeals and all that. Anyway, long story short, every time we went in front of an actual judge, we beat these guys. But I finally looked at my wife and I said, you know what, sweetie, I love you. I'm going to die if this continues. It was killing me physically, emotionally. It was intense. And so I asked her for permission to sell the company because I said, look, it doesn't matter how many times we beat them. They're going to keep coming. We've embarrassed them. They don't want the world to think, they don't want these other agents out there and brokers out there to think that they can get away with suing the state. And so they're going to just keep coming. They have an unlimited budget and there's no accountability. And by the way, when they were forced to give my license back, guess how much money they had to pay in damages? Zero. Why? Because they have express and implied immunity. So here's the couple of lessons I want you to learn. Oh, let's back up. So then with Tara's permission, I sold the company. All right, now here's the couple of lessons I want you to come out of here with. Number one, write this down. You can be right or you can be rich. Pick one, right? Like let that sink in. We were right, but being right cost us. And when the way we come up with $100 million, I mean, think about the lifetime value of my career. Nobody was even close. Number 2 and number 3 at the time were Jay Kinder and Mike Reese, both amazing people, amazing agents. And I was pretty much for years, I was doing twice what those two were doing combined. And they're ballers. Like they're legit, right? They were doing very, very well. So you start doing the math on the exponential value of that career. It's hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, that being said, the other lesson that I want you guys to learn from this, and this is very important, okay? Guys, I don't recommend that you ever start your own brokerage unless you plan on growing your brokerage to over 1,000 agents. If you're not going to grow a brokerage to over 1,000 agents, you should stick with being in somebody else's brokerage and go do what you do best, which is sell houses. And then you'll make a lot more money, a lot easier, and a lot less risk. So I owned my own brokerage at that time. Had I had someone else as my broker, I never would have sued the state to begin with. My broker would have told me, oh, heck no, you don't, you crazy person, you. You're not suing the state. That's a recipe for disaster. You go sit back down and go do your work, right? And that would have been the best thing I could have heard, and it would have saved me hundreds of millions of dollars. I have so much respect for brokers out there. It's a thankless job. They don't make a lot of money, contrary to what everybody thinks. That I don't care what you're thinking. Your broker's not making as much as you think they are. And so when we get done today, go tell your broker thank you. Give them a hug. They need it, right? Just give them some gratitude. They could use it because normally what they're hearing all day is complaints, and they get to deal with the problems. And it's very, very rare that they get people that just come to them out of the blue and say, "I'm sure appreciative of you. Thank you for being our broker." Right? Do that for them. That being said, guys, don't pick a fight with somebody who has an unlimited budget, no matter how right you are. Never pick a fight with the state if you can help it. And frankly, when it comes to even with agents within the industry, one of the big mistakes I see a lot of people make is, somebody wrongs them and they want to make it right. So they're going to take them to arbitration, or they're going to sue them, or they're going to do whatever. Guys, nobody wins in that stuff. They just don't. Just focus on going out and making money. Okay. That said, it's been a great time with you guys today. I really appreciate you being on. You've asked great questions. The engagement's been phenomenal. And so if there's anything else I can do for you guys, I would appreciate it. If you just mention it in the comments, I'll happily answer any questions you have. Finally here, I have literally in 9 minutes, I have a call that I have to be on. So I'm not able to stay here past 9 minutes. So if you have a question, now is your time to type it into the chat. If you felt like you got value today, could you just say so in the comments? I would super appreciate it. If you feel like you got some value, just let me know. I'm a person too. I got feelings too, right? I want to know whether you end up doing business with us or not. I just want to know you got value out of today. I want to know that I got to help some people today, and that it was beneficial for you. So maybe even type in what was your biggest takeaway, or just even as simple as that you got value. And Veronica, thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right, guys. So seeing that there are no other questions right now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But thank you very, very much for being on. And I hope to hear from you guys either today or at some point in the future. And Jeremy, I can't wait to see you at the next event. I'm glad you're going to be at Listing Agent Bootcamp. And make sure when you're there, make sure you hit me up and give me a handshake and remind me that you were on the call today. And David, I'm excited to have you start coaching as well. That's exciting. And I love the comment you just made, Jeremy. He says, I listened to a few of these with you, similar info, but learned something every time. Yeah, so this particular presentation, Jeremy, this is kind of our entry point presentation, right? It's where we go over kind of a lot of the fundamentals, kind of just some really ground level kind of stuff to help people understand, hey, if I can only get an opportunity to share a little bit with you, this is what I think is going to move the needle right away. Boy, I'll tell you, we start getting into the deeper level stuff. Wait till we start getting into the AI and we get into the social media and we get into the, all the other ways that you can bring in business and cultivate business and increase profits in this business. I'm not kidding when I say this, you guys. Having a real estate license is truly like having a license to print cash. So that being said, thank you all very, very much for being here. And you guys, all of you, have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you, because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did.